Yeah, so we are good. Yeah, we are good.
Okay, perfect. So let's get started then, yes? You said you're a researcher, you're a Quranic researcher, and you are you represent the stance that you can only get your guidance from the Quran alone, um, and external sources are not right. Uh, just a quick question for clarification: do you deny every hadith, or is there some sort of hadith that you would accept?
Any hadith that the Quran does not approve, I
Hmm.
don't go with it.
Okay, so
So
there are some hadith that you do approve of then.
it depends. There are certain things that can be stated, which is sensible, or which I can resonate with. If it sounds like the truth, yes, I can go with that. Uh, but I wouldn't say I take those as my guidance, because if the Quran has already stated it, why do I need to look elsewhere? So
What about
it
if the
has to
Quran,
be.
for example, says something and then it's not explained very detailed, and then you can find a narration which talks about the same thing but in more detail?
Then there will be a problem. It means I doubt God, because God says, "أَفَغَيْرَ اللَّهِ أَبْتَغِي حَكَمًا وَهُوَ أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكُمُ الْكِتَابُ مُفَصَّلًا." And
Which
then
book is it talking about?
it's talking about the Quran.
How do you know that it's talking about the Quran?
Yes, first of all, you just need to look at the context. It's talking to the Prophet. In the context, we can check it
Okay.
out. We can check
It's
the
saying
context.
that, and it's brought down the book upon which there is a tafsil, which is
Yes, mufassala. When we say
mufassala,
mufassala,
which
it
is
is
what?
something on its own which has been
Detailed.
elaborated.
How did he explain how it was tafsil? How the action of tafsil has happened?
Did who
Like for example, I'll
explain?
give you an example, right? When Allah
Mm-hmm,
subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran,
mm-hmm,
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما.
mm-hmm.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prays upon the Rasul about the Nabi, and you, O believers, pray upon him and submit a complete submission.
So do you translate that verse as pray?
What do you translate the word salat? Sallu.
No, I'm asking a question. Do you translate it as pray?
We mean by prayer to connect. What do you mean by it?
Okay, so in that, I'm trying to understand your side first before
No,
I
I'm
go to
asking you
my
because you're
side.
the Qur'ani, right? So
No, no,
I want to know what
wait.
you're coming
You
from.
said
Because
you're
for me,
asking
I
me a
take,
question.
I'll tell you my stance. Our stance is that religion is a man. Religion is not a book. Guidance does not come. Even the Quran came to you from a tongue on the tongue of a prophet, and it's that man is a man. You know. So if you do not have Rasulullah, then you do not have the Quran. You understand? If you do not have that hakam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had put upon us, then we won't have any means of coming out of disagreement. I'll give you an example. You and me right now, let's disagree about this verse about the salah. Let's say you have a different definition than I do. Okay? Now we disagree, but I am interested in the truth, as we agreed earlier, and you also are interested in the truth, right? Like we're both interested in the truth. Then how do we know? Because the Quran now, has become a source of multiple meanings. Does God have his own truth? Like, is there an objective truth inside the Quran, or is this open for anybody's interpretation?
Not necessarily so. The truth can be established regardless of people having difference of opinion. People can try to formulate their own understanding to things, but always there is the truth, and the truth can be,
Mhm.
singled out. Now, if we take the criteria God gave us in Quran chapter 3, verse 7, Surah Al Imran, He gave us the specific criteria where to understand how to know the difference in which people bring their own interpretations. So He says, هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات. Then He says, هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهة. فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه. Then he says, ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تاويله وما يعلم تاويله إلا الله والراسخون في العلم.
Okay.
You understand? يقولون هو من عند الله.
يقولون آمنا
Yes.
به كل هو من
يقولون
عند الله
آمنا
آمنا
به
به
كل
كل
من عند
من عند
ربنا
الله. Yeah.
وما يذكر إلا أولي
أولي
الألباب.
الألباب.
Now, if we take this verse, we understand the criteria God has given us here. He gave us two groups here. Those who have the zayg in their qulub, they will now follow what is tashabaha minhu. You get the point?
Yeah.
Whilst if we understand that the book has muhkamat ayat, and again, it has what we have mutashabiha, it takes somebody who is deeply rooted in knowledge to understand the difference.
Deeply rooted in knowledge. I understand.
Yes.
Of course, I understand the verse, though there is a problem with your understanding of it. I'll ask you a question. Who are the people? Just a sec. Who is the one who is the rasikhuna fil ilm? Who are these people who are deeply rooted in knowledge? How do I define them and identify them?
The Quran never specified a name and say, oh, these people or that people. But when we tell you somebody, when you are told somebody is deeply rooted in knowledge, what is knowledge? Knowledge is any piece of information that you know that you can prove. That is knowledge.
I don't know. Is that in the Quran?
What is in the Quran?
Is that definition in the Quran?
Why should that definition be in the Quran?
You take your guidance only from the Quran, so why do you? Why should I take your opinion about this?
Did I say I take my definitions from the Quran?
Where do you take your definitions from?
So you don't understand the choice of words when words are used.
You know, people. I'll tell you a problem.
Wait, let me explain.
In linguistics, like allow me. Just a second.
But I'm making a point.
I'm a translator, right? Just allow me a second to introduce to you a problem, right? I translate from Arabic to English language all the time. Yes, words carry multiple meanings. In Arabic specifically, one word can mean healthy, and the same word can mean sick at the same time. Literally, the same exact drawing can mean healthy and can mean sick at the same time. So now, we know for a fact, it's a factual matter. Go open any sort of dictionary out there. You'll find one word having multiple meanings. In Lisan al-Arab and any Arabic dictionary, you'll find each word has multiple meanings. So now, you defined a definition for me. I'm asking you now very clearly, where do you get your definitions from?
I got it from the Quran.
Bring me the verse that says "Rasikhuna bil ilm." Al-ilm is the what? Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead. Give me the translation.
Are you short of words?
Huh?
Are you short of words? What were you trying to say,
brother? Short of words, what? You're the one who defined.
No. What did you say? What did you say? Look, we are heading to a point. We are not doing a straw man argument here.
Brother, you come on. You said.
Can I make a statement, please?
You can make a statement. Go ahead.
Let me make the statement. Let's have a fruitful discussion. I don't want a discussion where you interject and then you don't let me finish my statement. Are you getting my point? So when we are having a discussion, if I am making a point, kindly let me land before you interject or you chime in, because then the idea of a conversation will be full of.
Go ahead, brother. Go to the point, because I only asked you a question and you asked me for what do you mean, and I explained. So now I'm gonna stay silent. I'm gonna stay silent, Shaib, and you're going to tell me and you're gonna prove to me from the Quran where you got that definition of knowledge from. Go ahead.
Exactly. Now, in the first place, Quran chapter 17, verse 36, but we are going to come back to your definition, where you got the definition of pray for the prophet, where God is praying for the prophet. We'll come back to that, because that's the initial question I asked you before you diverted. Okay, so now, Quran chapter 17, verse 36, it says, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. Quran chapter 17, verse 36. Now, so do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge. If you don't have knowledge about something, it is not for you to pursue things that you don't know about. Here, this is knowledge here. وَلَا تَخْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. If I don't have knowledge about something, I don't need to pursue it. Now, when we are talking about knowledge, knowledge is any piece of information that you know and you can prove it. That is knowledge. If I tell you, can I finish, please? If I tell you I know how to fix a mobile phone, the moment I say I know, I'm trying to prove knowledge here. You, in order for you to be convinced that I can fix a mobile phone, is for me to do it, for you to see what I
Okay.
can do. That will prove to you that I have knowledge. So
Okay.
if God says, وَالرَّاسِخُونَ فِي الْعِلْمِ, those who are deeply rooted in knowledge. He didn't say those who only have knowledge. When somebody is deeply rooted, because most of the time God is talking to those who possess ulil albab, those of intelligence, they can actually decipher and know the difference on who is deeply rooted in knowledge, because they can speak on things they can prove. They tell you things that they can prove. Whilst you have the other parties, somebody who has no idea of what he's speaking about will say things that he has no idea, no proof, no source. You will know the difference on who is deeply rooted in knowledge and who is not.
Okay.
So now, if you tell me to define, listen, you are telling me where did I get my definition? I just simply need to study the Quran and know how God utilized the aspect of knowledge and aspect of ignorance.
Okay.
Simple.
Is this something shared for all human beings? Can all human beings reach that?
Can they preach what?
Can they reach what you know?
Can they
In the
reach?
same way? Can they see the
Yes,
same
I'm a
thing? Or
human being.
do people agree who are intelligent, right, on the planet? Do people agree on the intelligent people? Intelligent people, do they agree on the Quran?
No, not every
Okay.
intelligent person. It depends on which type of intelligence you are talking about.
Right. Just allow me now to say something, yes? Look, this here is a problem. Why? Every day I sit down and I start to study the Quran and I start to get deeper verses in this Quran which says, for example, for the sake of argument, right? Because there's a lot we can talk about, on where you start, but since you're the one who denies every source outside of the Quran, then I'll take you for that. And I'll say, for example, we disagreed about a matter, yeah, between you and me. You brought a verse. We go back to the verse of the prayer, right? How do you pray on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How does the Prophet Muhammad how does Allah pray upon Muhammad? This word prayer, because as-salat, it's like, how does he do that? When he commands me pray upon Muhammad, how should I do that? And is this something that I should do today, or is this something that it's just back then because he was alive back then and now he died? Now we disagree about this. According to the Quran, when you and me, intelligent human beings, disagree about the Quran, right? When you and me disagree about this meaning of this verse, how are we supposed to remove this disagreement and be both guided at the same time, because we both love God?
That is why we organize dialogues, and you have a discussion when you don't agree with people, so that you have dialogues to present forth your arguments so you can come to an agreement. Now, if you are two intellectual people are having a discussion, there's one thing we are looking for, which is called the truth. That is why intellectual people have discussions. An intellectual person can never have a discussion with an ignorant person.
Okay.
Because then there will not be any agreement in between. You get my point?
Well, it depends, because intelligent people disagree with each other all the time because they have different intellectual information, and maybe they have a problem logically that the other person cannot really solve for them. In this case, I asked you, for example, how does God tell us to solve this problem? And you said through intellectual discussion, which is not actually how he said it. Because
which question did you ask me?
I'll give you the Quran.
Did you say how does God?
I'll give you just a second. Allow me to finish. Yes, allow me to finish. So we don't, do the same thing. So you got me a Quranic verse which says, like, "Inna anzalna alayka al-kitaba fihi ayatun muhkamatun wa ukhra mutashabihat." So you used this verse when the verse itself is talking about God bringing down this book upon what? Upon who? Upon you? If the context is important.
No, what kind of question is that?
Just a second. The context is important, no?
Context is important, so you don't need to ask me.
So now the context is saying, just a second, I'm reading as logically as reasonable human being is. This verse is in front of me. This is the word of God, correct? The words of God is saying, we have brought down the book upon you. Who? Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. So this book is brought down upon Muhammad. Fihi, in it is clear verses, and in it is unclear verses. Now, I
don't agree with you.
You don't agree?
The verse never says on clear verses. It never says that.
And mutashabih is, what does it mean?
Similar.
Something that looks like the truth.
No, it doesn't even mention the word truth there. When we say shubiha, look, shabaha, something is similar, resemblance of resembler doesn't mean it's
but it resembles what?
Is it? Then the context is there. It's telling you the verses are similar.
It resembles what?
What? Resembles what?
It's saying similar. What does that mean? Similar to what? Similar to the truth?
It's telling you similar ayat. Can't you see it there? It's written there, bro.
Yeah, look, it seems like you don't understand the Arabic language a little bit. So look, the idea is this. It's okay. It's okay. I'll present you the problem, right? The problem is here. There is verses that are what? The first one is what? Verses that are what?
No, speak up. Why are you asking me? What are you asking me?
What's muhkam? What's the word muhkam?
Muhkam. It can be precise. It can be a verse that is precise. Yes, precise.
Precise. And the rest and the other ones are what?
Mutashabiha.
Mutashabih is what?
Similar. If it's similar
to what? Similar to the muhkam?
What?
Similar to the muhkam?
Are you reading the verses? What are you asking me? Seriously.
Brother, if every time I'm going to ask you a question, you're going to behave in such a arrogant way, and you're going to repeat like, are you even reading the same thing? Like, do you think I am an idiot who's not reading the same thing you're reading? I'm reading it in Arabic to you and back to you. I know the verse more than you. I've memorized this verse, So the idea is like, you cannot tell me that I don't know what I'm reading. Please do not interrupt. Please do not interrupt. Look, every time if there is a discussion, there has to be a space for respect. And when I'm asking you a question that is logically problematic for me, and I see it as a problem, you need to intellectually deal with it, not mockery. Mockery is the way in the Quran, by the way, mockery is very looked down on. Like you should not be mocking anything and anyone.
Where is the mockery?
Because perhaps the one who you're mocking is like, you don't know.
So the idea, where is the mockery? Seriously,
you saying that when I'm actually sitting here and I'm saying, you're saying this is muhkam, this is a verse that is what? That is clear verses or what?
Which is precise. I didn't use the word.
Good.
Yes,
precise.
I didn't use the word clear.
Yeah, precise.
Choice of words.
That's okay. Precise. Okay, choice of words, right? Like we're gonna add choices of words here. So everybody's now ISIS members have the right to actually put their own choices of words as well. So that let's take it one at a time. Yeah. This is a precise, certain, precise, very clear. Do not touch the pork. Do not touch pigs. It's very clear. Yeah. Well, and the other ones you said is similar, but I'm asking similar what? Like, okay, what is the wisdom behind saying there are verses that are similar? I want to know. Similar what? Yani similar to each other? In the Quran?
Verse says, now can I speak up?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's go back to the verse. Context is always the key. God clearly says, Huwa allazi anzala alayka al-kitab minhu ayatu muhkamat. So God is now deciphering, telling us the difference. So he says, among the signs from the Quran, the book, minhu, we have what is ayatu muhkamat. Some signs are precise. Then now he goes ahead to say,
ayat are, yeah.
Yes, some ayat, signs are ayat also.
It's different context, right?
Can you stop interrupting me? I did that. You got upset. Please.
Then it's a discussion.
Now, then he tells us that other signs, this ayat, other signs are mutashabiha, similar. He never says they are unclear because it's like if I have twins, if I have two kids and they are twins, they are similar, but they are not the same.
No problem.
So if I say mutashabiha, they are similar, it doesn't mean they are unclear. A parent
the brother doesn't know what it means, obviously.
Can I please speak up?
No,
please.
obviously you don't know what it means,
But
because I ask you and you
please,
go around and around
if
and
you
around and
do
around
this,
and
we
around.
can have a discussion.
Yeah,
Please.
akhi, the correctional officer, you are not God here, yes? Just submit to yourself a little bit, just like lower yourself a little bit, yeah?
Submit to who?
Obviously, when I asked you a question about what it means, you keep going back and repeating the same thing as if you're a parrot. God be pleased with you, yes? God be pleased with you. Like, don't repeat yourself.
Can you stop interrupting me, please?
I'm asking you for a definition. What does this mean? When you say mutashabih, what does it mean? Like,
Brother,
okay, this word has a meaning, correct?
I just told you the meaning.
You didn't say anything. You said mutashabih is similar. Similar to what? What am I supposed to understand?
The audience are listening. I was explaining, you keep interrupting. You
Then
are
start with that. Start there. Start at the end, yeah? Don't
Stop
go from the start. Start
Let's
there.
have a civilized discussion. Simple. Can you stop interacting? Simple.
Brother, God be pleased with you. This is not a joke. I'm not playing games with you. You understand? I'm not playing games with you. I'm here so that I can discuss with you this matter. If I'm asking you a question, please answer the question. Don't go looping around on me. I gave you the time. You went all the way. You started and then you finished. And then you said, this is what it means, similar. I say, what similar what? Why do you keep repeating the same thing? Like, just give me what does it mean? This word, underline it, yeah? Underline the word, mutashabih, and tell me, explain it to me, Go ahead. Mic is yours. I'm not here to interrupt you.
To be honest, if you interrupt me again, we end the program.
Okay, that would
now,
be running.
The point is, I only ask a simple question when you say God prays for Muhammad. This is how we got to this part. So you said I shouldn't interrupt you. I heed to your claim. I'm not going to interrupt you. But why is it that when I speak, why do you interrupt me? Respect is reciprocal, please. So let's heed to that agreement. Now, you asked me what is the meaning of mutashabiha. I simply repeated myself, say it means similar. Now you say similar what? And I said, let's listen to the verse. The verse says ahayat. The signs are similar. That's all I said. Now you said I keep repeating myself. What exactly do you want from me? To say what? Like, I don't get it. You said mutashabiha means what? I said similar. You said it's unclear. That's what you said. The word unclear. And I said it's similar. God never said it's unclear. Because then it contradicts the words of God. God says it's kitabi mubin. If it's a clear book, why will you say it's unclear? If it's unclear, then that contradicts the words of God. How can the book be mubin and unclear at the same time? So God says similar. So at the end of the verse, he told us those who are rawasikhuna fil ilm, they will know because they are deeply rooted. They've studied. They know the differences. They know what is similar in the verses of the God. So they can tell you this is what is this, that is what is that. Simple. So this is where our argument is based. So over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, obviously, brothers and sisters, thank you so much for listening. The brother obviously doesn't know what the word means, right? So because let me explain to you something very quickly about this. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that same verse, he says that those whose hearts are lean badly, these are the ones who follow the mutashabihat. So obviously, if the brother is just saying that it's just similar verses to other verses, to the same verses, to it verses, to this. I mean, then why do the people whose hearts lean to the wrong are the ones who are following the mutashabihat? That's number one question. Second question is, which verses of this Quran that you have between your hands today, which verses are mutashabihat? Which verses are they? Who's going to decide for you today which verse is a mutashabih and which verse is a muhkam? You're in danger now. The danger that you're inside of is that you would point at a narration and ignorantly say, as a Quran or an ayah, you would point at that and say, that's a muhkam. And somebody comes and disagrees with you and then proves your point wrong. And proves that you have fallen under this definition of following mutashabihat, lookalikes of truth, things that have multiple meanings, you can say, and the truth in it has to be revealed by a divine revelation of some kind. So the idea is this, which we proved it so far. So as for the prayer part is very clear. What happens is this, is that now you and me are going to go to that verse because it is very vague, right?
Can you first of all answer my question on that? How I told you, according to you, you believe God prays for the prophet? I just want to know that part first.
I just want to prove a point, the major idea of behind that, yes? Because what it is, you're a Qur'ani, you're a person who only takes from the Qur'an, you do not take anything from sources outside of that. And so I want to prove that, okay, now I'm going to disagree with you upon this. I'm going to disagree whatever you say.
Guidance. Point of correction. I said I take the Quran for guidance.
For guidance, that's
the point. It doesn't mean when there's another source of knowledge.
How do you interpret it? How do you interpret this verse?
No, wait. Can you deal with the first question first?
Yeah. For us, we believe
you, yes.
For us, we believe that how you do the salat is that you pray. You say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, al-a'immata wal-mahdiyina wa sallim taslima. Why? Because my imam who's appointed by God, he is the Rasul that is sent by God. He is the Rasul of the time. He is the one who has that spirit of God that Allah blew into Adam in the beginning when he says, وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي فَقَعُوا لَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. That person, that spirit of God is with him. That's why we believe in him. That's why we take from him whatever he says, Allah says. You know, he is the messenger of God today. Now, how do you interpret it?
Now, so I want to be clear on the point before I tell you my point here.
Right.
So based on your side of explanation, you believe God prays, which I don't believe so. God does not pray to anybody because the act of prayer is communicating with a deity. So communicating with a deity, if God is praying for the prophet, it doesn't make sense. How can God pray? But let's go to the understanding. This same brother says in Arabic, one word has multiple meanings. So if it does have multiple meanings, why will people just stick to one meaning and say God pray just because the word salah appears? That's a contradictory statement. Now, if you take the word salah, God has used it in multiple ways in the Quran, and it doesn't always mean to pray, even though literally we can say it's a connection, to connect. But then the concept of prayer arises from the external sources always. They think every time you see the word salah in the Quran, it means prayer. No. And as a matter of fact, chapter 33, verse 56, Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhallazina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu tasliman, does not use the word salat there. The word salat doesn't appear there. It's a verbal form used, salli ala. Salli ala. So used in this context, ladies and gentlemen, kindly open Quran chapter 33 verse 43, and then you see how God utilized the same word. Then you get to understand it. Now, Quran chapter 33 verse 43. Now listen what God says. God says, Huwa allazi yusalli alaykum wa malaikatuhu liyukhrijakum min az-zulumati ila an-nur wa kana bil mu'minina rahima. Now, this verse is clearly telling you what God does for the believers. It is not about prayer, to pray for the believers. No, why will God pray? No. What actually God does, this Salli Allah here, is to bring the believers out of darknesses into the light. It's an action that God has to use a means to bring you out of darkness into the light. Now, how does God communicate with the believers? Quran chapter 57, verse 9. Look how God brings people out of darknesses into the light. Chapter 57, verse 9, God is further explaining, Huwa allazi yunazzilu ala abdihi ayatin bayyinat liyukhrijakum min az-zulumat ila an-nur wa inna Allaha bikum ra'ufun rahima. Now you see, this verse in chapter 57, verse 9, God is now telling you that God uses his verses to bring you out of the darknesses into the light. Now let's go back to 33:43. When God says, Huwa allazi yusalli alaykum, you the believers, he does the salli alaykum. That act is to bring you out of the darknesses into the light. It is not literally to just sit down and tell God, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He already told you, Inna Allaha وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ. Why are you now repeating, telling God, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad? Pray for the Prophet. Why will God pray?
I'll tell you.
So now,
I'll tell
the
you why.
word salli ala there is an act of reaching out. God reaches out to us via the verses. But the first place, the verses doesn't come to us direct. It has to be in the medium through an angel, through a human being, before it gets to us. That's the form of reaching out. Now, in order for us to get the verses, we the people also who are based around the time of the prophet, we have to reach out to the prophet in terms of communicating with him in order to get the verses. So that now the verses will take us out of the darknesses into the light. So it's an act of connection with God. There is no notion of prayer in that verse. But this is the guy who said one word can have multiple meanings, but he stuck to prayer. So ladies and gentlemen, that's my point.
Okay. So seems like you're taking this as a debate, not as a discussion, but it's fine.
No,
I'll
it's a
take it. No
discussion,
problem.
yes.
No problem. We'll discuss. So you said that this is what it means, and you assumed wrongly and falsely and accused us of all these kind of like false logical like inconsistencies and contradictions without asking us exactly what do you guys believe it means, as in when you have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to salli alayhi, what is that? What does that mean? We, brother, when we say Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, it means that we are the ones who are asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to connect us to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, and the Imams and the Mahdi, so that we can be connected to the light of God on earth today. That way we can actually be saved, because your way is a way of I interpret for you, let me discover this truth myself. Now you have to say to us, and let me tell you something, yes, which is going to be the point that I'm trying to prove to you. So I need you to kind of come with me. Now we disagree about this word, right? This statement, this sentence. You have your own definition, and we have our own definition of what it is. Correct?
Of which sentence?
This Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you Muslims, you believers, you pray upon Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. Okay, you pray upon Muhammad. You also pray upon him.
Yeah, it's just the word.
He's commanding us. He's commanding us to do it, right?
Salat, we don't agree, yes.
Guys, brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Allah and the angels are praying upon Muhammad. They are doing that act that the brother has explained. What it means, let's put it to the side for the sake of discussion. Now, we're saying that Allah commanded us to do the same thing. Yes? He commanded the believers to do that salat. Correct?
There's no salat in that verse.
Yeah, akhi. The action that you just explained to the general public,
you.
right?
The action.
The action, yes, that's what it means. I mean by it, the action. So he's telling us to connect, to do that action, whatever the action is, to who? To Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa. Correct? So when we're saying Allahumma salli, when we're doing it, we're not saying Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad because we're mushriks, but we're doing it because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded us to connect to Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. Now, watch this, yes? Since we disagree about this specifically, this verse specifically, and I can bring you 1,000 narrations, Quranic verses that we can disagree about easily. You and me will disagree about even inna nahna nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. It is us who brought down the dhikr, and it's us who are protective over it. We can disagree even about the meaning of that, the truth and the reality of that verse. The question is as such: how did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tell us we can remove this disagreement between us? How did he say, if you guys, believers in me, believers in the Quran, how would you, if you disagree upon something, how would we lift this disagreement between us, and we know you and me will be united under that one truth? How would we know that?
Quran chapter 4 verse 59. God says, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, atiu Allah wa atiu rasula wa ulil amr minkum, fa in tana'azatum fi shay'in farudduhu ila Allahi wa rasul.
Ahsan.
Now this is the most important part, the way I stop. Farudduhu ila Allahi wa rasul. He stopped there. He didn't add any other ulama or any other shuyukh.
I agree with you 100%. With Allah we agree.
Yes. So now, if we are going to deliberate on farudduhu ila Allahi wa rasul, Now, this is where we have to establish the truth between you and I.
Let's try, because this is the essential kind of like, I think this is the gist of where we differ, right? Because if I didn't believe in what I believe about this verse, I would be probably an atheist, but like the next best step would be a Qurani, you know. So let's take it and explain it. Yes, because I mean, in order to differentiate between you and the rest of the sects of so-called Islam, I have to title you somehow, even if you don't like it. Okay. It's unfortunate, you know. It's like an unfortunate case. What can we do?
No, I'm not offended. I'm just asking why you. I wasn't offended. No.
Yeah. That's the reason, so that the people know who I am kind of talking out to, without kind of like. Without having to explain 5 minutes every 10 minutes, you know. So it's just a title so that they can understand, connect, who am I talking to? Somebody who only takes the Quran as their guidance, source of guidance. So let's take this verse and let's go with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says to you Shu'aib, and to me, he says, if you who believe disagree upon a matter, then return it to Allah and to the Rasul. Now, how do I do that? How should we do that?
Thank you. Now, when we study the Quran on its own, Quran chapter 5, verse 101, the only way God can speak to us, human beings, via his message is from the Quran, the book. And then he has to do it via the messenger. The messenger has to deliver his message to us. Mm-hmm. Now, so when we go to Quran chapter 5, verse 101, God says to the believers, Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, la tas'alu an ashiya'a in tubda lakum tasukum. Wa in tas'alu anha hina yunazzalu al-Qur'an tubda lakum. Then he says, Afa Allahu anha, wallahu ghafurun halim. God says, oh, you who believe, do not ask about things. Because if we have issues, look, if we have disagreement about things, because God says, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ, if you have disagreement in anything. So now, let's say we have disagreement, and I need to ask a question. I'm a believer. So now I go. God is telling me, oh, you who believe, do not ask about things. If made clear to you, would distress you. But if you ask about them when the Quran is revealed, they will be made clear to you. God has overlooked such, for God is forgiving and clement. Now, God is talking to us in his book. He's telling us clearly that if we ask about things, right, that when it's made clear to us will distress us, we should rather ask in the light of the book of God, which is the Quran. That is when we will get the right answer. So now, if God says, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي شَيْءٍ فَرُدُّوهُ إِلَى اللَّهِ وَالرَّسُولِ. Remember, the words of God are in the Quran. The one who delivers the words of God is the messenger. Because without the Rasul, I will not have the words of God. So Quran chapter 5, verse 67 says, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الرَّسُولُ بَلِّغْ مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ مِنْ رَبِّكَ وَإِن لَمْ تَفْعَلُوا فَمَا بَلَّغْتَ رِسَالَتَهُ وَاللَّهُ يَعْصِمُكَ مِنَ النَّاسِ. Right? So that's Quran chapter 5, verse 67. Oh, you the messenger, deliver what has been revealed to you from your Lord. And if you do not, then you have not delivered his message. Right? Good. And God will safeguard you from the people. Now, so based on the question that Brother Hussam asked me, you can clearly see he's saying that if we have this disagreement, how do we go back to God and his messenger? The only way we can go back to God and his messenger is via the book of God.
I see.
That is the book the messenger brought to us. So that's where we get our answers from.
Okay, I see. So, brother, thank you so much for the answer. But like the idea is still that does not answer anything. Why? Because Allah, it's almost like, guys, Allah is telling us, if you guys disagree upon a matter, then just stay into disagreement. It's okay. You can still just disagree and live with your disagreement and die according to guidance or misguidance. We will never know the truth, you know? Why? Because...
Is that how you interpret it?
Can you not interrupt, please? So the idea is this, yes? Is that if the Quran, if I'm going to return it back to Allah, through the Quran, and the Rasul through the Quran, right? Which is what the brother said. You have to return it back to the Allah, and Allah will solve the problem for you in the Quran. I am the one who's disagreeing with you about the Quran. You understand? We have a disagreement about what the Quran itself means. Like literally, because allow me to not, please. I'm talking to you and to the general.
No problem.
Yeah, you can take a note if you want. So yes, brothers and sisters, if I have a problem with the brother, a disagreement on the meaning of a Quranic verse, which I'm scared. I want to know what the truth is. I want to know what God's objective truth means. What does he objectively mean by this thing? Not some subjective, I wish what I want. You know, like subjectivity and objectivity has to be declared in the Quran. Otherwise, if it is subjective, which means what? If it is according to your own understanding, then what happens is that you allow everybody to take this Quran and do whatever they make it say, whatever they want to say. You understand? Because that's what subjectivity means. You're watching a tree, right? Subjectivity for the sake of argument. You're watching a tree. Some person subjectively will look at that tree, which is objective. They will look at that tree and they will think in their head apples. The next person next door to them, they will look at that same tree and they will say money, because they can chop it, make it into something and sell it. Like everybody will see their own perception, and their perceptions maybe to a certain degree is true too, you know, like it's not false as well. But what is the objective reality? What does God mean by this word? Yes? What does God, the question is as such. Everybody, I go to the Shia, he gives me the interpretation of this book. I go to the Sunni, he gives me the interpretation of this book. I go to the Qurani, he gives me the interpretation of this book. I go to everybody, to ISIS, he gives me the interpretation of the book. I go to the Christian, he gives me an interpretation. Everybody, even the atheist gives you an interpretation of this book. The idea is this, is that does God have a meaning? Does he actually have a say in this book, or does he not have a say? Everybody's making God say what they want him to say. But does he actually have a meaning? If he does, then obviously this Quranic verse which we're discussing is returning you to something which would remove this this kind of like fear of the brother that the brother has, which is, hey, do not ask about that which if revealed for you, it will be made, you know, very scary for you. Because why? Because I want to know what the truth is. You understand? If God did not leave me a way to identify clearly the truth is this or that, then it's his fault. It's his fault that we do not know what he means by the Quran, and we disagree about it. You understand? There has to be, God has to say in the Quran what he wants to say. We cannot make him say what we want him to say. That's the problem. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, فَإِن تَنَازَعْتُمْ فِي أَمْرٍ, if you disagree upon a matter, a thing, anything, return it to Allah. That he's given us the solution to the problem. He's not telling us return it to Allah so I can tell you just stay still, stay silent, don't know anything about it, you know. Yeah, you disagree about something essential in here, yeah, which is, let's say for the sake of argument, is there a messenger today or not? You know, is there some messenger today or not? And then you disagree about that, and you return it to Allah through the Quran, yeah, and you'll find that, hey, don't ask about matters that you know. What do you mean by that? How does that make sense that he wants to solve my problem, my disagreement with just shutting me down? Shut up, don't talk, you know, don't ask any questions. That's not a solution. That's keep being misguided. I want everybody to be misguided here. Everybody's on their opinion. It's okay. I'll stay silent myself. I'm not going to give you the way. No, we don't believe in such a thing. We believe that, in fact, this verse is very clearly stating that if you had it, say for the sake of argument, so that we can put context, because the brother likes context and we all like context, yes? Take this Quranic verse and travel back in time, yes? We get a spaceship today, you know, that takes us back in time. We land our spaceship outside of the house of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have this disagreement. Now what does it mean? Now what does this verse mean? Oh, you who believe, if you disagree upon a thing, then return it to Allah. Well, we're returning it to Allah through the Quran. We disagree about it. And the Rasul. So we go to the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Rasulullah, this verse, what does it mean? Ya Rasulullah, from you, peace be upon you. What does it mean? This Allah said in the Quran, yeah. What does this word mean? What does that mean? So this sentence, because it has many meanings. I don't know. You know, can you tell me? And he says, bam, this is what it is. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Now it's the clarity that now both of us cannot deny. You understand? Now both of us cannot deny. If we deny the interpretation of the Rasul, then we deny the interpretation of God. Go ahead.
Brother Hussam, I waited all this while for your explanation. You never gave any explanation for the verse.
About what?
I thought you were going to explain the verse and tell
What
us
verse?
this is what the verse means. The verse we're just talking about, Quran chapter 4, verse 59.
I just
You
explained
don't agree. You didn't explain anything. You
I
didn't
just
tell
explained.
us how
Okay,
it
I'll
means.
repeat if you allow me.
No, but
I
let me,
literally
no,
explained it.
no,
Brother,
I
I'll
allow
tell
you
you
to
just
finish.
very clearly
No,
in
no,
30
it's okay,
seconds, and
okay.
you can take 5 minutes. But
No, it's
just
okay,
30
it's
seconds.
okay. I'm just going over
No,
what you all said. It's okay, it's okay.
what is
Because you
okay,
did the
brother?
same. You did the same to me earlier, so I don't need you to repeat yourself again. Fine. Now
You
the point
clearly
is,
didn't listen, right?
no, I was listening.
No, you
I
weren't
was listening. You did it multiple times to me. I answered you, and you say I didn't answer, and then you went over
No,
what
brother,
I
you
said.
repeated yourself. I didn't repeat myself. God bless you. God be pleased with you. No
Okay,
problem.
no
No
problem.
problem. God be pleased with you.
Now let me
No
talk.
problem.
It's okay.
People are
It's okay.
listening, and they are the
But
judges.
can
Go ahead.
we always deal with time? Can we
Yeah, I
do
have time. I
time?
put time for you. How many minutes do you need?
You can make it like let's make it for 4 minutes. 4
4
minutes
minutes?
to be
There you go.
precise. For 4 minutes.
4 minutes.
Then
Yours.
it can go.
Go ahead. 4
Now,
minutes.
so what we are expecting from the brother is just to go straight point to the point and tell us the truth. This is where it says. Now, first of all, what people don't notice is when we take Quran chapter 10, verse 82, God says, وَيُحِقُّ اللَّهُ الْحَقَّ بِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَلَوْ كَرَهَ الْمُجْرِمُونَ. God will enforce the truth with his words, even if the criminals dislike it. So enforcing the truth is not about what I think, what he thinks, what somebody thinks. It's about what God is saying, which is final. Now, to establish the truth, ladies and gentlemen, look behind me. Do you see the panel behind me is black? Every intellectual person listening to me, you know this is black. But still, in this world, we will have argumentative people who will still tell you this is not black. Does that mean we have to take them seriously? Seriously, to be honest. Will you take such a person seriously? Look, the truth is from God. God says, لَقَدْ جِئْنَاكُمْ بِالْحَقِّ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَكُمْ لِلْحَقِّ لَكَارِهُونَ. We have brought you the truth, but most of you hate the truth. Just because people don't agree with the truth doesn't mean necessarily it's a lie. So disagreements is bound to happen whether you like it or not. Quran is a guidance, but doesn't mean we can agree on everything. That is why there's a judgment day. Quran chapter 17, verse 84. God is clearly telling you that كُلٌّ يَعْمَلُ عَلَى شَاكِلَتِهِ. He's telling you that each of us, everyone, works according to his manners. Right? Everyone. Now, but when you take this notion that everyone acts according to his own manners, but it is only God who knows who is guided in the way. So now, when it comes to establishing the truth, and you put the Quran aside and you say we have to go to an external source to take this hadith, to take that hadith, to tell me this, when the hadith is full of contradictions. We cannot even agree on a particular hadith. The shuyuks are confused. If we come to the verse, that's why we have to deal with those who are deeply rooted in knowledge. They present the arguments. It has to be examined whether there's a contradiction in their statement or not. This is how to decipher. So that is why Quran chapter 4 verse 82, God says, أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنِ, because contemplation is number one. It's very important. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنِ وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ إِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ. Had it been from other than God, لَوَجِدُوهُ فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. You will have found numerous discrepancies there. So the moment you start seeing discrepancies from people, this is people's opinion. These are people's opinions. When you are sticking with the truth, you will always differentiate black from white. And that is why the Quran is Al-Furqan. I gave it the verse. I gave my understanding to it. He doesn't agree. He should give his understanding. He just went waffling all over the nets, talking about things, spaceship and so on, which has nothing to do with the verse whatsoever. When you looking for the words of God, you find it in the Quran. When you are looking for the words of the messenger, not the prophet, the messenger, you find it in the Quran. God always says, yes, alunaka ani ruhu. Then he will say, kul. That's the messenger. Speak. Yes, alunaka anil khamr wal maisir. Kul. Yes, alunaka maza yunfiku. Kul. So when God says obey God and obey the messenger, that is where you find the answer in the book of God. When it comes to the discrepancies or the misunderstandings we have with each other, this is where knowledge plays a role. You sit each other down and have a discussion. Then you can establish the truth. And the truth is any factual information that can be proven. It's factual. You don't need to be wishy-washy about the truth. So this is why we are having this discussion. Remember, the title is He is going to prove to me the Imam Mahdi, where God actually mentioned it in the Quran. That's the title, ladies and gentlemen. So embrace yourselves.
That's not the title, so let's take it. But like, I will prove it, no problem. But don't change the topic. You already agreed to the topic in the earlier session, which is did Rasulullah actually write a will or not? That was the topic. But then we'll
No, the
talk
will
about
of
the
the
Mahdi.
Imam Mahdi.
Let's just allow me. Now, allow me.
No,
Yeah?
you didn't set the time yet. If you are going to set the time, let
I
me
have
know.
a time.
I can.
It's, your time is done anyway, so it's like
Okay, 4 minutes.
yeah,
I check.
4 minutes. Check your time. So the brother obviously went through his own interpretation of what this means, and he started interpreting Quran from his pockets. And hey, that's fine. You know, everybody's, I guess, in his aqidah, everybody has the right to interpret the Quran according to what they want. Therefore, the ISIS member has the right to, interpret according to what they see and perceive as a factual matter, right? Black is black, right? If they see it as black and a group of people gather together hallucinating that it is black, then it's black. It must be. You know, he does not understand mass hallucination. He does not understand exactly what he actually is seeing. You know, somebody else physically, literally can, who is colorblind, does not see it the same way he sees it. So the idea is that you can see how silly these arguments become after, like, you actually put it under the investigation. This guy actually says, guys, if it's black, then it's black. And if somebody who's colorblind comes and says it's not black, it's not, it has to be black. Do we believe the colorblind person? You know, should we believe him? You know, he's not seeing the truth. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not that silly, you know, in our minds, unfortunately, you know, for you, that we do not think that God is that silly with us, you know, and he does not treat us with this kind of level of low-level mindsets. So what happens is this, yes, is that when it comes to this Quranic verse, clearly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we are to see the context of this, if we go back again, if we go back to the Prophet's time and we land in there, the Prophet Muhammad, in this ayah, it says, return it to Allah and the Messenger, correct? Like now, we have a Quranic verse we disagreed about. Yes, we disagreed about the Quranic verse. We say, Bismillah, brother, I love you. I want you to go to heaven, and I don't want you to go to hellfire. And you love me, and I don't want to go to hellfire. One of us is wrong. Obviously, one of us is wrong. You know, obviously, you know, one of us is saying we have to return it to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The other one is saying we have to return it to me, to the Quran, to my own opinions about the Quran. Aslan, you do not know what the meaning of these words are. Who are you to decide for God what he means? Are you appointed by God? Did God send you as a messenger? Are you a veil of God? Are you a messenger, a prophet, an angel of God, that you can actually tell us what God means by this book? This book is a book of codes. You do not understand a single thing in it. That's why it says, who did the Quran come down on? It came down on Prophet Muhammad, who is the lisan, who is the tongue that is Arabic, that is clear. The Arabic tongue that is clear is not a book, bro. It's not, this is not a lisan, yeah? This is not a tongue, yeah? Yeah, this is not a tongue. The tongue is the Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, who in that time, if we have a disagreement, we go knock on his door, Ya Rasulullah, can you please tell us what Allah means by this? He says, yes. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. When it came down upon me, this is what it meant. It came down for this specific example. It came down upon this specific reason. Not what you're telling me, random mutation of this interpretation of whatever your heart desires. Who are you to tell me what God says? Why should I listen to you? Are you appointed by God? Are you a messenger of Allah? No, you're not. You're not a messenger of Allah. You're not a Khalifa of Allah. You're not a Rasulullah. Therefore, why do you appoint yourself as the Rasul? Because you know what happens when you return it back to the Quran? You go back to your own opinion about the Quran. You don't go back to the Quran. You're returning to your own interpretations of what and your own understandings of what the Quran, which 1,000 billion people disagree with you about. It doesn't make any sense to take the Quran and start interpreting it from your pockets. We believe this verse means that every age and every time there is a messenger on the planet Earth that God subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed as a successor in the same way that he appointed from Adam to Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Khalifa's successors one after the other. When he said subhanahu wa ta'ala, Inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, he appointed Adam and he blew of his soul into Adam and he made the angels prostrate to Adam and he made them learn from Adam and he made Adam their king. We don't think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after Rasulullah changed his mind and retired and did not appoint rulers over the Islamic Ummah. That anybody, whoever they are, they open a TikTok channel and they start interpreting the Quran for people. That's the exact disaster that the Islamic Ummah is going through now. It is the evidence against this is the world today. Everybody's interpreting according to what they want. That's it. Mike is yours.
Thank you, brother. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have Brother Hussam giving us a fatwa and his legal opinion. I thought he's still going to give us the understanding to the verse, if in case Imam Mahdi also gave the explanation to that verse. Still, there's no solution. So here we go. When we are trying to establish the truth, when we say people to stick to the Quran, what we are saying is study the Quran on its whole, as a whole. You get the explanations in other chapters and other verses. This is how to decipher and understand the Quran. That is why the Quran is Al-Furqan, the criterion. Now, the other people, they think you have to go to other books to find guidance. Yes, because they say the Quran has left us in limbo. So yes, we have to go to their other sources so that we can cherry pick things that we agree with and then to say, yes, this can guide me. But ladies and gentlemen, all what we are saying is, chapter 17, verse 36, do not pursue that of which you have no knowledge when you're dealing with the Quran. So even if you're following the Quran and you don't understand a particular topic, it's not about following your whims and desires. Don't practice it yet. You have to investigate, study the verse. You understand? Make your research before you can draw a conclusion. And drawing conclusion doesn't mean we are just here taking opinions and then we just make up verses. Look, Baba Shribe, I have a fully translated Quran. People who know, they know about me. But when I came here, Brother Osam thought, oh, this guy is just a Dick, Tom, and Harry who just be talking about Arabic language and doesn't know, no idea what he's talking about. And this is the way I want discussions to be. And that's why when he asked for a moderator, I said, no, we are mature people. We can actually go at it and have a discussion. Now, this is how I want a discussion to go. But if it's left to legal opinion, fatwa, then I don't think there's a discussion. There's verses there. Let's deal with the verse. By the way, if we have to make this topic interesting, can we move on to the will so that Brother Hussam can prove to us the will from the Quran and show us where it says Abdullah Hashim or Imam Mahdi is coming, because people are waiting. It has to be interesting. Over to you.
Okay. So I said if he wrote it or not. That was the topic. So again, the brother says that I made a fatwa. In fact, if anybody is making fatwas, is all the people who believe only in the Quran. Because they have to manipulate the Quran 1,000 million times in order to twist the words of the Quran, twist the context of the Quran to fit their own narrative. Because in fact, in the Quran it says, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ تَعَالُوا إِلَى مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ وَإِلَى الرَّسُولِ. You understand? رَأَيْتَ الْمُنَافِقِينَ يَصُدُّونَ عَنْكَ صُدُودًا. What do you find in the Quran in Surah Nisa verse 61? It says when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they are told, these munafiqs, these hypocrites, right? When they are told, come back to what Allah has brought down, and, the word and, the Rasul, and the Rasul. So now there's a clear difference between the Allah, what Allah brought down, and the Rasul. What Allah brought down and the Rasul. You will find the hypocrites, they stop you. They say, no, don't, no messenger. No, let's not go back to, we don't have messenger. Messenger is the Quran itself, which means what? Now this statement here in the Quran, Allah is saying, you know, according to the person who only takes from the Quran, interprets the Quran by the Quran, this would mean, وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ, and if it was told to them, come to what Allah has brought down and to Allah, That's what you have to interpret it by. If the Rasul is Allah, because if you go back to Rasul, you go back to Allah, right? You go back to the Rasul, you take from the Rasul, it means you have to take back the word of Rasulullah, which is what? The Quran, right? So then you have, and come back to the Rasul and the Rasul, which means to Allah and to Allah. How does this even like click? This is a logical glitch, you can say. It's not even a logical fallacy. It's just a glitch in the system of understanding. You know, when you say that the Rasul is Allah, you have to return back to Allah, to what Allah has brought down, and the Quran says, which is the Quran, and to the Rasul. You cannot have just the Quran alone. The Quran alone is a book of codes. As we said, the Quran alone is a book of codes that people don't know. They don't know all of it. Maybe there is in it stories, for example, of prophets and messengers. There were very nice stories, but there are things in the Quran which are literally impossible for you as a human being to say, yes, that's what Allah meant, unless you have an inspiration from God. Let's take, for the sake of argument, the brother who said, did Rasulullah write? I say, did Rasulullah, for example, disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in the Surah 2, in chapter 2, in verse 180, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded everyone, all the believers, to write a will at the death bed? Did Rasulullah disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? I mean, if you're telling me that he did not write, then he disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, why should I follow a Rasulullah that disobeys Allah? How does that make sense? In the Quranic verse, it says, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمْ إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدُكُمُ الْمَوْتَ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةَ لِلْوَالِدَيْنِ وَالْأَقْرَبِينَ حَقًّا عَلَى الْمُتَّقِينَ. It is written upon you that when death approaches any of you, that you read and you leave behind goods, that you write a will for your parents and those who are around you. It's our duty, a right upon those who are God-fearing, muttaqi. Now, if that's the case, then where is that will? I demand it from you. You're the Qur'ani here. I'm the one who comes to you. The Quran commanded Rasulullah to write a will. I want to respect the final words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, who Allah commanded me to pray upon him. Now, I want to respect the last words. Can you please provide for me the will of Rasulullah so I know what he said at the last day of his life? So I can respect the words of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, the best of Allah's creation, the best teacher of mankind. Through him, the tongue of God spoke. I want to know, because Allah said you have to write. Everybody has to write. So if you say he didn't write, that's have a nice day. If you say he did write, where is it? Please present it to us. Because you don't know. Because Allah is telling you here, return to Allah, what Allah has brought down, and to the Rasul. Go ahead. Mic is yours.
So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, he says the Quran is the book of code. No proofs. He goes ahead to say, when God commanded the Rasul to write a will, no explicit verse. God is talking to the believers. He wasn't talking directly to the Prophet and say, you have to write the will.
A disbeliever, the Prophet, I told you.
Please, don't interrupt, please. You have to write a will to the people so that you write Imam Mahdi. God never said that. So now, ladies and gentlemen, choice of words are very, very important. So let's use their own books to catapult them. According to their own Sahih Hadith, they ask a question concerning legal will. Listen carefully. According to their own Sahih al-Bukhari Hadith, this is found in 2740. Ladies and gentlemen, you go to sunnah.com. In 2740, they asked the Prophet, did the Prophet make a will? He is here. Let him check himself. Sahih al-Bukhari 2740. This is Sahih al-Bukhari. Did the Prophet make a will? Abu Awfa replied. It was replied, no, he didn't. I asked him, how is it then that the making of a will has been enjoined on people? He replied, the Prophet only left behind the book of God. That is the Quran, according to their own hadith. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when we say contradiction, these same people will go and bring concord another hadith. And he says, I left my book the book of God, and Ahl-Bayt. And then they go ahead again and bring another hadith. And he says, I left my book and my sunnah, and the book of God and sunnah. Another hadith. This is what we call contradiction. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you go to Sahih al-Bukhari 5669, according to them, when the Prophet was dying on his deathbed, he told the people, bring me a paper, let me write something which you will never go astray. What did Umar say? Wa indakum al-Quran hasbuna kitabullah. The book of God is sufficient. Umar, ladies and gentlemen, according to the hadith, Umar never allowed the Prophet to write anything. He never allowed the Prophet, according to the hadith, he never allowed the Prophet to write anything. The Prophet even sacked them. He said, go away from me. Now, these same people, all of a sudden, they say they have a will. How can your Sahih al-Hadith claiming that the Prophet never left anything but the book of God, and all of a sudden in 2024, we have somebody saying they have a will, and then it has AL-HAKIM and Imam Mahdi? Now, I throw this challenge to him. Let him come and prove to us one sentence where he says Imam Mahdi, just the sentence, Imam Mahdi, or AL-HAKIM, or where it says the Prophet left a will, and in the will, this Imam they are claiming is the one coming. Nowhere did God ever say that. It doesn't exist in the Quran. So now, since the Quran is the book of guidance for who? For mankind, not for the Arabs, for mankind, I throw the challenge to Brother Hashim. I dare him today to come and prove to us right now from the Quran with a clear verse. He shouldn't put the challenge on me. I'm not here to prove anything. The burden of proof is on the Ahmadis, not on correctional officer. Correctional officer is here to represent what I said in my videos. Wallahi, if he can prove to me an explicit verse where God says the Prophet wrote a will with somebody called Imam Mahdi, or just the name, okay, just the name Imam Mahdi, wallahi, I'll follow their religion right now. In the Quran, which is the book of guidance God gave me and him. He has an external source. I don't have that. If he can prove today, I'll follow the Ahmadis, and I'll tell all my followers to follow them, if he can prove. So ladies and gentlemen, that's all I'm here for. So over to him. Let him come and answer to the hadith I just mentioned.
Yeah, no problem. God bless you. So look, brothers and sisters, since he's like kind of abandoning his location in this conversation, and he's obviously like abandoning the Quran right now, because I just told him that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking to the believers, and he's telling to the believers, you have to write a will on the night of your death, or you're around your death. The brother suddenly makes the Prophet Muhammad not a believer by saying that Allah is not talking to the Prophet Muhammad. He's just talking to the people outside there. You know, guys, he's Allah, and he's saying, oh, you who believe, he doesn't mean Rasulullah too. You know, he's an exception to the rule, you know, somehow. So we need the brother to actually come up to the mic and give us the evidence from the Quran. According to him, he's taking only the Quran. So according to him, you know, he needs to actually prove from the Quran that the Prophet Muhammad was an exception to the rule here. Yes, he needs to prove that he's not a part of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had said in here, that you have to write a will before you die. You understand? So now it's very silly that we can actually go through this thing. Now about the Imam al-Mahdi, because the brother does not believe that the Quran actually mentions Imam al-Mahdi. There is quite a lot of Quranic verses that does not make any sense, except that there is a Khalifa, a successor that comes later, and he is a guide. Because why? In the Quran it says, for example, إِنَّمَا أَنْتَ مُنذِرٌ وَلِكُلِّ قَوْمٍ هَادٍ. But let's see, what does that mean? It means that, subhanallah, in the Quran, in the chapter, if you give me that's the Warner. Here we go. It's 13, chapter 13, verse number 7. The disbelievers will say, if only a sign. You see, look, if only a sign could be sent down, could be sent down to him from his Lord. You, O Prophet, are only a warner, and every group of people have a guide. Every group, kulli qawmin had. We all have a guide. The word hadi and mahdi are the same origin word. Literally, it means a guide. A mahdi is guided, is the person who is guided. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, every qawm, every group of people, there is a guide to them. The Quran, you say the Quran is the guide. The Quran is what's causing all this trouble in this world today and all these disagreements, because it's alone. It doesn't have an interpreter. Because your highness is the interpreter of the Quran. Your highness. is the interpreter of the Quran. And I have not met two Quranis that agree, by the way. Two Quranis that agree on what Allah means in the Quran. These Quranis, they disagree about everything. You understand? Because everybody got their own opinion about what it is, you know? And so they prove it by what? By literally going back to the Quran and trying to like say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. That's what you'll hear them say. Allah said, Allah said, Allah said, Allah said. But when you ask him, how do you know that that's what God means? He says, well, it's Allah said. How do you know that that's what he means? Well, we already agreed from the beginning, remember? Maybe you have a memory loss, so let's remind you. The idea is that from the beginning, we agreed that words have multiple meanings. So why do you decide for God what meaning is true and what meaning is false? This is why I said it's a book of codes, because these codes are ancient language. It's not even Arabic. It's ancient Arabic language that even the Arab teachers, do you understand? Arab professors, we're not talking, guys, we're talking people who have spent their entire life studying the Arabic language. They disagree upon the meanings of these Quranic verses. And this highness here, he wants to interpret the Quran for us, and we have to follow and obey. Because we have to listen to him. If we don't listen to him, we're mushriks, right? So if we don't want to be mushriks, we have to listen Baba. You know, we have to follow Baba. You know, otherwise we are mushriks, all of us. And God is leaving us mushriks to hellfire, all of us, yes? So now, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, like forgives everything except for shirk. Now, when it comes to the will, we are not people who believe only in the Quran alone, because in fact, the Quran alone is a disaster for a guidance. Why? If he says a Quranic verse which is very interesting. It says, وَلَوْ كَانَ مِنْ عِنْدِ غَيْرِ اللَّهِ لَوَجَدُوا فِيهِ اخْتِلَافًا كَثِيرًا. If it was from anyone other than Allah, then they will find in it much difference. I find much differences in the Quran today, with all your interpretations of it. That's what I find. I find 1,000,001 interpretation. Each and every single one of you pick in the Quran saying Allah said, and it's different, complete contradictions to everyone else. It's not from Allah. Your opinions is not from Allah, because it's an opinion of a human being who's limited. You understand? And you have to be appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a Rasul in order for this book to make sense. Otherwise, it's a book of nuclear. It's a nuclear bomb. Literally, it's a nuclear bomb. That because of this, women got raped. Because of this book, women, children got raped. You think I'm emotional? I'm passionate. I'm saying the truth. Because of this book and this interpretation and this ideology of open, free for all, anybody can interpret the Quran. This book, because of it, women got raped and got sold in sex trafficking rings. Because of this ideology. You understand? Because of this ideology, ISIS exists. Because of this ideology, that everybody can picks up the book and starts interpreting whatever they want, you find all the Islamic sects, including the Qurani. So now its mic is yours. When you talk to me about the will, when you talk to me about the will, I will prove the will according to what we believe in. We don't believe in your ideology. Rasulullah is the one who said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to us, you have to obey Allah and the Messenger. You do not know what that means. You say that means Allah and Allah. Yalla, go.
So ladies and gentlemen,
5-6 minutes, so that you can cover.
No, 5 minutes is okay.
Okay, 5 minutes.
So ladies and gentlemen, this is what the sects always do. They mention verses, sometimes they struggle to even give you the reference because they don't want you to study. In Quran chapter 2 verse 180, when God says, Kutiba alaykum iza hadara ahadukum al-maut, in taraka khayr al-wasiyyat. Then he says what? Lil walidaini wal akrabina. Then he says, bil ma'aruf. Haqqa ala muttaqin. Now, prescribed to you when death appears to one of you is to bequeath a good legal will. For who? Does it say for mankind? These people say Imam Mahdi is coming for mankind. Listen carefully. So if it is a will the Prophet left, it has to be for mankind, not for the parents, not for the relatives. And that's not what God is saying. So when God says the believer should leave a will, it has a specific reference, but these people don't know how to deal with context. So he says for the parents and the relatives. That's all. So now, I ask him a simple question. Come and prove to us where God says Imam Mahdi left a will, and my prophet left a will, and it says Imam Mahdi and a guidance for mankind, that Imam Mahdi is going to guide people because we are lost. According to their Imam Mahdi, we are all lost. It says 99% of Islam is wrong. So now he's coming to guide mankind. Okay, that's not all. This guy went ahead to quote chapter 13, verse 7, and he is saying chapter 13, verse 7, where he says, for every people is a guide. He thought God is referring to another human being coming to guide. No. So let's check Quran. They don't know, they don't understand how to deal with context in the Quran. Now, Quran chapter 25, verse 31, God was telling the prophet, he is sufficient as a guide. He, God, is sufficient. Quran chapter 25, verse 31. Check what God told the prophet. He told him clearly, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ عَدُوًّا مِنَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ. Then he says, وَكَفَّى بِرَبِّكَ هَادِيًا وَنَصِيرًا. Right? So God is sufficient as a guide. Then again, because he doesn't understand, he thought it's a human being coming to be the head. So let's go and check. Quran chapter 22, verse 54. Check again. God says, وَلِيَعْلَمَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ أَنَّهُ الْحَقُّ مِنْ رَبِّكَ. Then he said, فَيُؤْمِنُوا بِهِ فَتُخْبِتَ لَهُ قُلُوبُهُم. Then he says, وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهَادِي. Listen. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَهَادِي الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. So God is the Hadi. He is my Mahdi. Not a human being. I don't need a human being. God is the Hadi. This guy went to the Arabic language. He went to the word Hadi and he says, oh, this Hadi is the same as the Mahdi. It's not the same. In Arabic, when you have a prefix, a suffix, it changes. It's not the same. You can say it comes from the root, but it's not the same. I said, come and show me where it says Mahdi. You are showing me Hadi. And the Hadi is only for God. Show me a verse where God says any other person is the Hadi. No verse. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is how this is what baffles me a lot. When people start pointing fingers at us, they say, you the Quranic people, you did this, you did that, you are interpreting the Quran the way you are interpreting the Quran the way you want. We don't do that. We are not, as a matter of fact, we are not even forcing anybody to come and follow what we say. You are saying we don't agree on things. The Ahmadis, do you agree on things? The Shias, do you all agree on things? The Sunnis, do you all agree on the same thing? No. That is why you have differences. Even the Sahih Hadith I quoted, was he able to tell you I was lying? No. Was he able to tell you the Hadith I quoted doesn't exist? No. So it means he believes, right? So the Prophet never left any will for mankind. He only left what? The book of God. Hasbuna Kitabullah. We side with Umaru. Ladies and gentlemen, we are with Umaru. Hasbuna Kitabullah. The Quran is sufficient. You understand? So let him come and prove. Still, and that's why I'm here. He should prove the will for me and show me in the Quran where he says this is the will. And the Prophet, look, if he can prove to me Abdullah-HAKIM is the Mahdi from the Quran, wallahi, I'll be his follower. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't want me to follow them. I'm ready to be his follower. So, brother Hussam, please help me out. I just want to be your follower. If you can prove.
Inshallah, you will help yourself out. So, look, thank you so much for your intro. The idea is this, guys, brothers, sisters, like the brother really thinks that he's got something at hand. The narration that he mentioned is not a narration that was narrated from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the opinion of one of the Sahaba that was around. That's for one. For two, he keeps saying this is our books and our books. He doesn't know who we are and he doesn't know what we believe in, and he has not researched our religion to a degree. So he's like literally watched one video and he's happy about his knowledge about this video. And so it's like he doesn't even know what we believe in, like literally. He just thinks that we believe in Imam Mahdi and that's it. We don't need that's it. We have so much differences between us and you, brother. It's like massive. You don't even know how how far away you are from the truth that we believe. So anyway, the idea is this: the brother takes the Quran and he says the Quran is my only source of knowledge, and the Quran is a book that was gathered for him by the Sahaba in exactly the same way that the Hadith was gathered, exactly the same way. Because this Quran that you have between your hand today has been written by a human being and by the hands of a human being. It did not, for example, for the sake of argument, right, as the Quranis would wish, and I don't know, maybe when before they go to sleep they blame Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for not bringing down the Quran in this fashion, you know, hallelujah, hallelujah, from the sky, just coming down all completely stamped by God subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that they can use these arguments in a way that makes sense. The idea is that this Quran, if you open any of your Qurans, if you have, right, go open the Quran right now, go to the last pages of this Quran and open the ta'rifu bihada al-mushaf, which means identifying, or this mushaf, like the identity of this book, this mushaf of Uthman. Yes, according, because he doesn't know that this is Uthman who, the Khalifa Uthman is the one who actually gathered this book for him, and he's the one who actually authenticated it for him, exactly the same way, by the way, as without any contradiction, exactly the same way as the Bible was gathered. You understand? The Bible was gathered in the Council of Nicaea. The Quran was gathered by Uthman ibn Affan, and he's the one who added all these fatha, kasra, dhamma, all of these kind of stuff to it. So the brother, if you do not remember, Arabs at that time, they did not have fatha, kasra. So this is additions to the Quran. So this book, you have to first prove that it is actually the authentic original Quran for you to start talking so high and mighty about this meaning, and Allah is my only guide and it's my only source. You dancing all this time and what, about the Quran, and you're dancing on top of the book of the Quran, because it's not like you know it inside of you. It's not inside of you, it's inside of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Imams. If you go back, brothers, to the last pages of the ta'rif, or the identification of this book, you will find the narrators of this book. You will find that this book, for example, is narrated by Hafs, or this book is narrated by Warsh. The problem with the Qur'ani is that he has to admit that there are multiple Qur'ans out there. You understand? He has to, whether he likes it or he doesn't like it, because the Mus'haf based on the narration of Warsh and the Mus'haf based on the narration of Hafs are different, even in writing. So there are if you compare the ayat between them, there are words that are taken and words that are added. Do you understand? So if you go to compare the two Quranic verses, bring two Qur'ans together, right next to each other, put them right next to each other. You open the ayah of Hadid, Surah Al-Hadid, sorry, ayat 24 or 23, because, by the way, the numbering in the Quran is different between these things. So is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim an ayah from the Quran, or is it not an ayah from the Quran? How would he know? Who would know? How would you know? Inshallah khair. So because the two Qur'ans, one of them adds it as an ayah from the Quran, the other one takes it out of the ayah of the Quran. So now we have contradictions inside this book that he says it's perfect and it's preserved by God. Contradictions, brothers and sisters, that are not like small. In fact, it's even inside of the, in the writing. So if you say that there is no words that are missing, there is words that are missing. If you say there's no words that are added, there's words that are added. If you're, this is just taking pure Quran. We're not taking the ahadith on the side. So yeah, for the brother to come and talk to us about as if he's like he knows what he's doing, then for Quran you have to prove this Quran is the original Quran. By the way, just one last question before I let you have the mic. Yeah, I'm gonna give you the mic right now. One last question. Where did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect the Quran according to the Quran? Yours. Mic is yours.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You see, Brother Hussam always does a straw man argument. He leaves my question hanging. He ignores it. All my questions, he ignores them. Then he comes and says, let me ask you a question. Ladies and gentlemen, the burden of proof of anything is not upon me. here. I don't understand what we are doing here. If you want to know how the Quran is protected, let's arrange a different dialogue for that. We can. This is a separate discussion altogether.
No, it's not. Allow me to interject, right? Allow me to interject with this, because this is dealing with the topic of the discussion.
Let me finish.
Just a second.
Let me
just a second. It's
first.
between you. I'll pause your time and you can have your time. It's not a problem. I'll reset the time for you. I'll add for you 10 minutes if you'd like. But this is a discussion now about the topic itself. When you come to me and you say I don't accept anything other than the Quran as a source, and the source of the will is connected to the hadith, then I cannot prove to you anything except that you show me 100% that this Quran is complete, because you're testifying that this Quran is not a hadith. It is a hadith. Whether you like it or not, it is a narration. It was narrated by people on the tongues of the people, and it was written by human beings.
When did I say Quran is not a hadith?
God bless you. So then you're rejecting everything else based on what exactly?
No,
why would you reject the hadith? I can give you, by the way.
You asked me the criteria. You asked me, do I believe in any other external hadith aside the Quran? What did I tell you?
You said you don't take it as guidance.
I told you only if God approves it.
Okay, only if God approves it. How is He going to approve it?
Fine. You check the Quran. That is the book of guidance.
Okay, perfect. So if Allah subhanahu, if I bring you the will of Rasulullah, right now, and I show it to you and I read it for you in a narration, and we go take it back to the Quran and we find it does not contradict the Quran. In fact, it goes alongside the narrative and the context. Would you accept it?
But you just said the Quran doesn't talk about it. It's found in the hadith.
Would you accept it if it's a hadith, but a hadith that goes with the Quran and it doesn't contradict the Quran?
Did the Quran talk about it? Did the Quran talk about it? Did the Quran
the Rasulullah was told to write a will.
I said, did the Quran specifically tell the Rasul?
The Rasulullah was told to write a will.
Will of what?
A will.
Will of
leaving
what?
Goods. Whatever you goods behind, and Rasulullah was the Khalifa, no?
Okay, leaving goods.
He was the Khalifa and he was the ruler, right?
I said leaving goods, not to leave about somebody coming, right?
That's okay. He's leaving the chair of Khilafah. It's the best of goods. It's the goods that actually, in fact, if you look into the Solomon inherited what from David?
We find it in the Quran. Yes, we find it in the Quran.
So there is an inheritance of the chair of the Khilafah.
No problem.
Correct?
So where does it say in the Quran that the inheritance of whatever Mahdi, prophethood or whatever Imam Mahdi is going to do? Where does it say in the Quran? Where?
Brother, that's what I'm trying to prove to you. The Quran alone is not enough. Because first of all, it's a hadith. It's a hadith. And therefore, there is other hadith when the Prophet Muhammad did not just speak these words, brother. This is like, look, watch. Do you think that Prophet Muhammad was walking around not talking to his wives, not talking to his friends, not talking to his people, not commanding them in the army, not telling them go to this war, go to that war, go fight over here, come down here, build this house here, build that house there? You think that he wasn't talking? What was the Prophet? A Buddha?
It's
he was just sitting, walking down and like saying, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem." Is that what you imagine him to be?
Was he part of the guidance? What the things he does, the way he sits down in the chair, the way he enters the bath, is it part of the guidance?
Brother, if the best of human beings is in front of you,
where did God say that?
I'll tell you. I'll tell you. If the best of moral human beings, right? And what, you don't think that he's the best of morals?
I said, where does he say that?
What, Quran, that Muhammad is the best of moral?
Yes, where does it say that?
And you are upon a great morals.
Does it mean best?
Yeah, akhi. What do you think? Who's better than Prophet Muhammad? Tell me.
Does he use the word best?
Yeah. Who's the better than Prophet Muhammad? I believe that this means the best.
I'm asking you a simple question.
Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not say azim. Great. Yes. Okay.
Does he say he's
now,
the
what
best?
does this mean? Not the best?
I'm asking you a question. Answer me before
I'm saying it means it's the best people, the best of creation.
So according to you, the word
you tell me how it doesn't, and somebody else is better than Rasul.
Wait, according to you, the word khulq means best, right?
La, akhi, you don't understand. The word's meaning, when Allah
I'm asking a simple question.
And I'm answering you. When Allah says great to somebody and he doesn't say it to anyone else, what does that mean? Where did Allah in the Torah say that you are upon a great morals, ya Moses? Where in the Quran does he say it to anyone else?
Waity. He says you are upon. Does he say you are? a great character? Or does it say you are upon?
إنك لعلى خلق عظيم.
So he's upon, right?
Okay.
Does it say he is the great character, or is he upon?
What are you trying to prove?
No, I'm asking you.
I'm clear.
Look,
I'm clear. Look, I'm not like you. I'm not a Qurani. I'm not a Qurani. Look, don't judge me by your standards. First of all, your standards are corrupt anyway. Go ahead.
You see, this is an insult. You are insulting me indirectly.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm just telling you, don't judge me by your own standards.
You are telling me in front of the audience that my standard is corrupt. That's an insult.
Of course, you think my standards are corrupt?
No, did I say?
You think so? No.
No, I said, did I say you're corrupt?
I didn't say you're corrupt. I said your standards are corrupt.
You say my standard. That's an insult.
That's okay, brother. If it's an insult, I take it back, Habibi. I did not mean it in that.
No, thank you. Let's be respectful. That's why
I don't mean it in an insulting way. I said like your methodology. Basically, what I meant by it is that your methods of belief is wrong. Of course, I believe it's like corrupt. It's not true. You say the Quran is 100% authentic, right?
But I still have 5 minutes to go, right? So let me.
I'm giving you as much as you want.
Let me use my 5 minutes.
We have to agree on the topic. If I'm going to give you the narration of the will, and it goes alongside the Quran, and it does not contradict the Quran, would you accept it?
If only that statement comes from the Quran first.
What do you mean? Any word for word has to be in the Quran?
That's a book of guidance for mankind.
That's it? It has to be one word for word?
No, I didn't say word for word. I said that statement of guidance has to be from the Quran.
If Allah is saying to the Prophet, write a will, then it's going to have to be in according with the Quran.
Okay, give me a verse where it directly tells the Prophet, write a will.
Brother, is the Prophet like? Why do you make an exception to the Quranic verse? Where did it say in the Quran? For example, I'm telling you. When Allah Subhanahu wa Taala says, "It is up all you who believe," it didn't say all you who believe except Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Write a will. It didn't say that. So when it says anyone who believes, that's what it's saying. Anyone who believes the Prophet Muhammad is a believer or no?
Now read the context.
Anyone please tell me, is he a believer or is he not a believer?
I said the context of where you say anyone who believes. Give us the verse. Where does it say anyone who just anyone?
Chapter 2, verse 180. And you accused me too, so it's like
I just read the context of the verse. Does it say write a will for everybody or for your parents?
It says for those who are nearby. Now, do you think that the ruler of the Islamic country at that time, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was ruling people, who was actually having laws, jurisprudences, controlling towns, having battles, you think that this person would leave the ummah without any sort of like telling them what they're going to do afterwards? And here is a Quran that I didn't gather for you, that the Sahaba has to gather for you about like 3 generations of Khulafa afterwards? And then you think that he's going to leave you guys just like that?
Can I use my 5 minutes, then we go over?
Wait, when was the Quran gathered?
Can you stop the straw man? You want to another discussion?
I ask you about the Quran that you say it's the most authentic source in the world, and you tell me that this is
If you want to know, brother Hussam, if you want to know, go ahead, arrange another topic. We can have the discussion if you are interested, right?
I am, yes. In fact, let's arrange it right now.
No,
if you talk about the completeness and
I said if you are interested, we will arrange another topic with that.
Yeah, let's arrange it now in front of everybody.
Yes, it is not a 5 minutes discussion.
That's okay. We will arrange it now. Inshallah, the next meeting, we will talk about.
But let's talk first. Let me use my.
Okay, let's arrange it and then we'll go back. I have 7 minutes for you ready.
I don't need that much time, but it's okay. Let me go over my point, right?
So we're going to agree that next topic, we're going to talk about the Quran and if it's complete or not complete.
No, wait. I don't agree about a setting whilst I'm dealing with the current issue. We agree by fixing behind the channel, just like we did. I'm not scared of you. You should get that right in your head.
Bismillah.
Okay.
Bismillah.
Now, Quran chapter 6, verse 115. Ladies and gentlemen, let me put some thought in this guy's head. God was telling the prophet, he says, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا لَا مُبَدِّلَ لِكَلِمَاتِهِ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. The word of your Lord is complete in truth and justice. Look, every intellectual person listening to this verse, you know the word God has given the Quran is complete in truth and justice. Yet we have these sectarians telling us the words of Quran is not complete. Some are taken out, some are added, right? This is what they are saying. They don't believe in the Quran. Now, There is no alteration to his words. God says there is no alteration, but the sectarians still believe the words of God has been changed. Then God says, and he is the hearing, the what? The omniscience. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is the challenge God put forth. Quran chapter 42, Quran chapter 41, verse 42. Now, listen to Surah Fussilat. Listen what God says. God says, لا يأتي الباطل من بين يديه ولا من خلفه. Then he says, تنزيل من حكيم حميد. He says, falsehood will neither approach it from the front and the back. Because it's a revelation from the what? Hakim, which is the wise, and the what? Praiseworthy. But here we have a sectarian telling us that falsehood has already entered into the Quran, words have been changed, things have been tampered with. Because of what the cover of the book says, not inside the book, cover. They take the cover and then something is written and then they say, oh, this is Hafs and this is Warsh. And then they give it their own meanings and say, this is what the book is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, God throws a challenge in Quran chapter 4, verse 82. أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Do they not contemplate the Quran? Then he says, had it been from other than God, they will have found therein numerous discrepancies. So if that is the case, and I have the Quran, somebody just brought you a Quran, whether they call it Hafs, they call it Warsh, they call it Aduri, what you as an intellectual person, what do you need to do? You need to investigate the book. Investigate it. You see any contradiction, it can never be from God. I'm serious. It can never be from God if there's discrepancies. This guy explicitly sat here and told you the book is it has a lot of contradictions. He was literally saying it. Quran has contradictions. He said it. And these people expect us to leave the Quran and come and follow an external source because they have an imam who will give us salvation. Again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, he went ahead to make a claim. And this is the claim he made. He says the Quran wasn't complete at the time of the Prophet. That is another blatant
When did I say, don't lie, don't lie.
No, I'm not lying. No.
I said it wasn't gathered for you.
You said the Sahaba gathered it. You said it wasn't. That's the completion. If it wasn't gathered, it means it wasn't complete. Complete means when you're building a house, you have to gather it.
Don't change my words, but yes, go ahead.
But please don't interrupt.
Yeah.
Now, the point is, this guy, what he failed to realize is, look, Quran chapter 11, verse 1, this is what God says. God says, Alif Lam Ra, Kitabun uhkimat ayatuhu, thumma fussilat min ladun hakimin khabir. He says, a book whose verses have been mastered. The verses of the Quran are mastered, pure. Then he says, and then elaborated by who? By the wise and cognizant. We all know that is God, right? This guy still failed to pay attention to that. Now, finally, Quran chapter 20, verse 114. I'm going to show you the Quran was complete at the time of the Prophet. Now, God says, فَتَعَالَ اللَّهُ مَلِكَ الْحَقِّ. Then he says, وَلَا تَعَجَلْ بِالْقُرْآنِ مِنْ قَبْلِ أَنْ يُقْضَى إِلَيْكَ وَحْيُهُ. Then he says, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. So exalted is God, the King, the truth, and do not hasten. I was talking about Quran chapter 20, verse 114, where God clearly told the Prophet concerning he shouldn't hasten with the Quran until the inspiration is completed to him. Now, finally, when we go to Quran chapter 75, verse 16 to 19, God tells the Prophet, لا تحرك به لسانك لتعجل به إن علينا جمعه وقرآنه فإذا قرأناه فاتبع قرآن. Then he said, ثم إنا علينا بيانه. Now, so we can clearly see that even the gathering of the Quran wasn't any duty of any Sahaba. God never said the Sahaba are the ones to gather the Quran. He never said that in the Quran. Wallahi lazim. It never exists where God says the Sahaba will complete the Quran or gather it after you. No. God says, Inna alayna jama'ahu wa Qur'anahu. So somebody will say, oh, how can God and his angels do? How did God and his angels, how were they able to even destroy the people of Sodom and Gomorrah? Was it not God who sent angels in the human form? So are you telling me God, the same God cannot do that by sending angels in a human form to protect his book? Is it human beings who have no clue even of the Arabic language of the Quran? They have to now write, tells you they are writing on the bones and whatever. That is arrant nonsense. They are all lies. They are not coming from the voice of God. The Quran is the truth. The Quran is guidance. That's where your answers come from. Remember, Quran chapter 7, verse 158. The messenger came to everybody. What did he say? Kul, ya ayyuhan nas, inni rasulullahi ilaykum jami'an. The messenger says, I am a messenger of God to you all. So it is not now he will come and leave a will to only some few people and then some abus and then ibins. Then they will gather some papers and say, oh, this is where he says imam. No, 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 no. We don't buy into that. So if the proof can come from the Quran, I'm in. If he is talking about let's prove the validity of the Quran, we can arrange another topic later. He knows my number. We can discuss that and arrange. Right now, I want to know where it says Imam Mahdi or Abdullah Hashim. That's, ladies and gentlemen, if you support this, that's why we are here, right? So let him show us.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, look, brothers and sisters, obviously the brother did not understand what I was saying. I was saying very clearly that I'm going to prove the will, that the Prophet Muhammad must have written it. Because he said, no, don't, the context of what happened is this, is that our Imam alayhi salatu salam, when he was on the minbar claiming to be the Abdullah mentioned in the will of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, he said, my name is Abdullah and I am mentioned in the will of Rasulullah that he wrote it on the night of his death. So the brother was like, hey, don't lie. Rasulullah never wrote anything. Don't lie. And he used that hadith, right, that he earlier said in Bukhari, which is a narration from a Sahabi, which he's like ignored somehow for some reason. He did not retract that statement because we don't care about the opinions of people. We care about the Rasulullah, not the Sahaba. So the idea is that, and their opinions don't matter. And in fact, their opinions is contradicted. This opinion of the Sahaba is like the opinion of Baba Shu'aib here. It's contradicted by other Sahaba who actually by authentic narrations as well that says the Prophet did write it. So he did write and he did leave the will, and it's in the Kitab al-Ghayb al-Shaykh al-Tusi. It's an ancient book of news because the narrations are news, as you would know in BBC and CNN. People are biased to their own news, but they will have news. It's like all these books of Bukhari, Muslim are news agencies. Not every single thing inside of these news agencies is going to be true, and not everything they say is going to be false. When the brother says that you have to investigate, it is true. You have to investigate the narrations because that's what we're told, and that's the logical, reasonable thing to do. So when we go back to the hadith, we go to the Quran. First of all, we find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ إِخْوَةً. The believers are brothers. But it seems like the believers are not the brothers of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi. And so he doesn't need to leave them to be guided after him. He doesn't need to tell them what to do after him. They didn't need him in the battlefields, because in the battlefields they had a Quran with them, each one of them. Yeah. Look at this. Look at what he's trying to tell me, that the Quran came down. Yeah. And it came down for everybody. Even though most of these Sahaba did not even know how to memorize it. Most of these Sahaba around, they didn't memorize it. They didn't have the Quran between their hands like he does today, because today, mashallah, he has the science technology, like that's why he has a book in his hand today. So back then, what did they do? They go and memorize some things. Now, the Sahaba are the same. What's the problem? Now, the Quran was a narration, that's a narration. What's the difference between these two? Who gathered this book for you? You say that it's Allah Almighty. We say, prove it. Because I have a Quran that's based on Warsh. I have a Quran based on Hafs. There's differences in words, differences in numbers, differences in meaning, differences in literally meanings. Do you understand? Differences in meaning, differences in laws, jurisprudence, man. Man, the Quran does not make sense. Go to the Surah An-Nisa. By itself, the Quran, you'll only understand maybe like the stories of it, like correctly. The rest is you're gonna be completely misguided. Surah An-Nisa, the first 3 ayat of it does not make any sense whatsoever. Go ahead. Surah An-Nisa, verse number 1 to 4 to 5. I'll read it for you right now. So anyway, don't want to digress too much. but he's the one who said that the Quran is complete, and this is the Quran that says that it's complete. And you cannot use the Quran to prove the completeness of the Quran, because that's the book that we have problems with proving its authenticity. You need outside sources in order for you to prove the authenticity of something, which in itself, in its own right, when we bring 2 or 3 of these qara'in ayat, you'll find that different. And you yourself will have to be the Rasul that comes down to the Quran and says, oh, subhanallah, this is true, that's false. You yourself. When Allah is the one who said to you in the Quran, according to your standards, He said to you, perhaps you would hate something and in it there is goodness for you. And perhaps you love something and in it there is evil for you. So your mind could be wrong. What you know and what you think is right and wrong could be wrong. So how on earth are you going to look at the Quran when I give you 2 Qurans that like talk about something, and there's a word here that's that's telling you feed many. In one Quran it says feed many poor people, and in the other Quran it says feed one person. Now, which one is right? Both of them seem correct to me, but then both of them are contradictory in numbers. So now what do I say? What do I do? Who's going to decide for me? You? Okay, prove that you are sent by God Almighty so that I can actually obey you. Because I only obey messengers that are sent by God. In fact, anyone who claims that there is no Imam Mahdi, there is no Mahdi, there is no guide, there is no Khalifa that is on our age today, is a person who accuses Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of changing His sunnah. Easy. Because the Mahdi, I don't even have to say he's a Mahdi. He's not a Mahdi. He's a Khalifa of Allah. Allah has appointed him. He is the one who made him as a Khalifa. He is the Khalifa of Allah al-Mahdi. Abu Sadiq Abdullah Hashim. He is the Khalifa. The Khilafah, successorship over rulership, is provable in the Quran. Easy. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started Adam, and then He said what? Then He said to the angels, prostrate to Adam, and Adam had knowledge, and Adam taught the angels things which they didn't know. That's the sunnah of Allah, that He is the one who chooses the Khulafa, not us, and that we need a Khalifa. In fact, every Rasul we have to obey. So today, there is a punishment on the planet today, and we don't have a Rasul that can interpret for us the Quran. We don't have that. When we disagree upon a matter and we want to return it to Allah and the Messenger, how are we supposed to return it to somebody who died a long time ago? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa, according to you guys, died a long time ago. So that now, before Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa, the Quran means go back to Muhammad. After it changes its meaning. And in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa, I disagree with you about a matter. We go back to the Quran, to Rasulullah. Ya Rasulullah, please tell us, what does this mean? He says this is what it means. Today it's different. Then there is a change in the Sunnah. By the way, don't use the khulafa that we are all khulafa. I'm not talking about the like as if you guys are the guardians over the earth. I'm using the Khalifa of Allah, the ruler of God, the one who was chosen, which was Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, that the prostration of the angels happened to him, that he taught. There is a rulership location. Khilafa can mean rulership as well, and that is provable in the Quran. Mike is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Sam, for your points. Actually, I've noticed that we are almost 2 hours into the program, so I guess we have to start thinking about how to end the program already.
Sure.
The brother quoted talk about the messenger being the guidance, right? Brother, just let me get you right. Is the messenger the guidance? Can you answer that for me? Then I continue. Is the messenger the guidance?
No, brother, the messenger is the messenger. He's a human being who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chooses every age and every time to be the Rasul of God. There is every age and every time.
He's not the guidance, right? That's what I want to.
No, the Rasul is the guide. The Quran without the Rasul is a book of misguidance.
Okay, so you said the Rasul is the guide.
Okay. Brother, there's no separation.
No, I'm asking you a simple question.
Yeah, I'm answering you. You do not separate. The book is the what? He uses the book and interprets it for you. He's the interpreter of the Quran.
You said he's the interpreter, right?
Yes, the messenger, the Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi would know the Quran better than you. That's it. Yeah.
I'm not comparing myself to
I'm just
Muhammad.
saying he would
Please.
know the Quran better than all of
Please,
us combined.
I ask you a
All of
simple
us.
question.
That's what
I
I'm.
didn't
That's
ask
what I
you.
mean. Wallah, that's what I mean.
Oh, but it's a simple question I ask you. I
Yes,
didn't
wallah,
ask
that's
you
what I
to
mean.
make a comparison, to
That's what I
draw
mean.
any
That's what I mean. I
comparison with
wanted to
me.
give you the meaning. The meaning is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi is the Rasul,
You
and
said
he
he's the
knows
guide.
the Quran better than you, me,
You
and
said
every single human being on the face of the
you
earth.
said he's the guide, right? But you couldn't prove it. You couldn't give me a single verse where he
What?
says
The
he's the
Rasul
guide.
is the guide?
Yes, where? Where does it say
Brother,
that?
brother, look. How does Allah guide?
Oh, I ask you a simple question. Where does it say he's the guide?
I'll
Where?
tell you. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sent him. And therefore he is a
And I
guide
say,
because Allah is the one
where
who
does
sent
it
him.
say that he's the guide? Simple
وَمَا
question.
أَرْسَلْنَا
Where?
مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا لِيُطَاعَ بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. We did not send a messenger except that he is obeyed by the command of Allah. By the
Still, I say, where does it say he's the guide? You say he's the guide. I'm
who?
asking you, where does it
Who?
say he's the guide?
Who?
Muhammad, the messenger. Where does it say?
Muhammad Rasulullah?
Yes, where does it say he's the guide?
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم.
It's a simple question.
This guy is okay. Look, God be pleased with you. How can a Rasul who we are commanded to obey him not a guide? How can the Rasul who the
Look,
Quran is coming from his mouth not be a guide?
the
يعني, okay,
Quran-
I'll show you. I'll show you.
I didn't
If
say
you
show
just-
me. I ask you where.
Where what?
Where does it say he's the guide? Where?
Are you okay, brother?
It's a simple question.
I answered you. How many times do I have to answer you?
Where does it say? Do you understand the English? Where does it say he's the
Okay.
guide?
Look, can I ask you? Because it seems like my answer is
Oh, no,
something
now you want
don't
to ask
like.
me a
Look,
question?
yes, because you don't like my answer. So I
No,
have
so
to
you
like
don't
really
understand
ask
the
you.
question. No, you don't understand.
I understand the question and I
where.
answered your question, but it seems that you don't understand my answer. Yeah. So
Where,
like,
look, if I
and
say
I
where,
said to you,
is it in
not
the
every
cup?
brother. It's not like language, as we said. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, subhanallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who says, I am the one who takes the life and death. I am the causer of life and death. Who causes life and death? Allah. How? Israel. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am the guide. How? I sent for you messengers with messages. That's how. You don't believe in Muhammad, you don't believe in Allah, you're not guided.
I showed you verses where God says he is the Hadi. And now I'm asking
How
you.
is he doing hidayah?
I didn't, it's not about how, don't ask me questions. It's my time.
Yeah.
It's my time to speak.
Then
So
ask
I
me.
was only asking you a simple question. Then you can answer
I
yes
told
or
you
no.
how he does
Then
it,
I
you don't
move on.
like it.
So you said Prophet Muhammad is the Had, but yet, ladies and gentlemen, he couldn't give us a verse or evidence
Guys,
from the Quran. Okay,
guys,
no problem.
brother,
Can I
brother,
continue
look,
with my
okay,
time?
look, Habibi, look, Habibi.
Can I continue with my
no,
time?
allow me
please?
to answer this question now. I'm gonna have to like really
No, I
answer
didn't.
this
No, I
question
don't need
because
any
it
answer.
seems
It's
that
okay.
it seems that you think we
please,
don't know the answer, guys,
please.
brothers and sisters.
I don't
look,
need your explanation.
allow me to
Can I
no,
finish my
because you
time?
just asked me the question and allow me to answer it, okay? You said that we don't know who the guide, and there is no verse that says the Quran, the Quran by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying that it is the guide. First, Habibi, give me the Quran that's complete and I will give you where it says that, huh? Number one, you have to prove that this Quran is authentic and 100% authentic, complete 100% before you start demanding such requests, yeah? So that's number one. Number two, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I am the one who guides and misguides, and he tells the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you do not guide those who you want, I guide those who I want or who they want. The guidance comes from you, because if you want to be guided, Allah will guide you. If you do not want to be if you don't want to be guided and you don't like the truth and you hate the truth, then God was not going to guide you. But this the idea is this: if I wanted to be guided, how am I supposed to be guided? Okay, I want to be guided. Ya Allah, I want your guidance. I want to be on your will. How am I supposed to do it? Just like sit down under a tree somewhere? Of course I have to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messengers and his angels and his this and his that. Can you imagine somebody sitting down and says, I believe in you, Ya Allah, I am guided. And he does not believe in the afterlife. He does not believe in the angels. He does not believe in Gabriel. He does not believe in this. He does not believe in hellfire, judgment day. Does not believe any of that. What guidance is that? How do I know that that's guidance? It's because I have a Rasul from Rasulullah. A Muhammad. I have a Muhammad. Sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi.
Can I take
over
Allah
commanded me to pray
I don't
upon
have all
him.
the time in the world, please. Can I take over my time?
Commanded me to connect to Muhammad, to return back to Muhammad. He always told us, I have Quranic verses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 about 20 to 30 Quranic verses that talks about the Rasul and how you have to obey him and go back to him. لتكونوا شهداء على الناس ويكون الرسول عليكم شهيدا. That what? The Rasul is a witness upon you. حتى يقول الرسول والذين آمنوا, until the Rasul and those who are believers. آمن الرسول, the Rasul has believed. What? Is that the Quran? The Quran believed? Guys, the Rasul is the Quran. Because the Rasul is the Allah, you know, the Risala. So the Quran, آمن الرسول. The Quran believed in what it was sent down by Allah. The Quran believes in what it was sent down by Allah. That's what they're telling us. Language just get destroyed with the Quran anyway. No meaning at all. You cannot reach any meaning. Any meaning. The Rasul, brother, what is it? You have to take the Risala from the Rasul, which is the Quran. So go obey Allah and the Rasul, which is the Risala from the Quran, which is the Quran. So I obey Allah and Allah. What kind of logical? This is a contradiction. This is a schizophrenic behavior. You understand? God, if he does tell us that, then he's schizophrenic. He doesn't know that he is himself, his message. He doesn't know. He actually tells you, come back to me and to my message. To me and to me. How does that make sense? When you are going to be guided, you need a messenger. You need a what? You need an Adam. You need a Moses. You need a Jesus. You need a Muhammad. You need a Solomon. You need a David. You need all these prophets and messengers so that they can guide you the way. Who's going to implement? Now you tell me, who is going to implement the laws of civil law? Who is going to implement the civil law? The Quranis who don't agree about the Quran? Who's going to implement the civil law in the Quran? Is this book a personal book? Is this book a personal book, or is it a constitution of a country? You tell me. If it is a personal book, I'll give it to you and I'll go away and I'll say, I'm wrong, brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. If it's a personal book. If it's a constitution for a country, then tell me who's going to rule us. A person who's appointed by God or a person who's appointed by the devil or by the people? If it's appointed by God, then there has to be a messenger today. Who's that messenger today? You tell me. Mic is yours.
Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, I asked him a simple question, and I was just asking for reference where he can show me where God says the messenger is the guide, Hadi. He couldn't show me. Now, when we go to Quran chapter 3, verse 144, listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen. He says, وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ رُسُلٌ. Now, Muhammad is only a messenger before whom messengers had already passed, right? So if he should die, listen carefully, if he is the guide, listen. If he should die or get killed, would you turn back on your heels? Because turning back on what? Because if he is dead, if he is my guide and he's dead, should I go to his grave, seek for guidance? There is no single verse in the Quran where God says Muhammad is the Hadi guide. No, he's not. God is the Hadi guide. God is eternal, everlasting. So that is why he left his book there. Muhammad is dead and gone. His duty was to deliver. He has already delivered. We have, mashallah, we have the book of God. But we have somebody who says there's contradiction. The book is not complete. That's his claim. Then again.
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Then again, he's asking about messengers. Let's go and see this prophecy in the Quran. Chapter 7, verse 35. Listen carefully. There's a difference between Nabi and Rasul. Nabi, the duty of Nabi is different from the duty of Rasul. However, we can have a messenger who has the duty of a prophet and a messenger at the same time. There's a difference. Now, according to the sectarians, they believe that every messenger is a prophet. That's a contradiction because even angels are messengers. According to Quran chapter 22, verse 75. God chooses messengers among angels also. So if every messenger is a prophet, then the angel prophet we are expecting to see it. Quran chapter 7 verse 35. Ya bani Adama, imma yatiyannakum rusulu minkum yakussuna alaykum ayati faman ittaqa wa aslaha fala khawfun alayhim wala hum yahzanun. O children of Adam, if messengers, listen, O children of Adam, if messengers among you come to you narrating my verses to you, then whoever becomes pious and reforms, then there will be no fear upon them, nor will they grieve. We say messengers. We are not talking about prophets. There's a difference. Sectarians don't know the difference. When they think when we say Atiullah wa Atiur Rasul, then they will take the Rasul out and they put prophet there. No. Rasul doesn't mean prophet. Muhammad himself, peace be upon him, alayhi salam. Quran chapter 33 verse 40, God says, Ma kana Muhammadun aba ahadin min rijalikum walakin Rasulallahi wa khataman nabiyyin. So Muhammad is a messenger of God and a prophet of God at the same time. But you can never find a single verse in the Quran where God says Atiullah wa Atiul Nabi. It doesn't exist. You will only find Atiullah wa Atiur Rasul because he's a messenger and he has to deliver a message. Quran chapter 5 verse 67 gives you the answer to that. Now, what they don't understand is when we say messengers will still be appearing among us, they think we are saying prophets are still coming in among us. And that is why these people are lost. They are waiting for Imam al-Mahdi, whose name is not in the Quran and whose title is not even mentioned in the Quran, to come and guide them. And yet they are still astray. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you go to Quran chapter 10, verse 46 to 48, check the prophecy here. Verse 46 to verse 48, God says, and whether we show you, Muhammad, some of what we promised them, or cause you, Muhammad, to die, thus to us is their return. Then God is a witness to what they do, because God is your guide, so he has to witness what you're doing. Now, and for every nation, listen, and for every nation is a messenger, not a prophet. Remember chapter 7, verse 35? For every nation is a messenger. So when their messenger comes, listen carefully. This is a prophecy you find in the Quran, not in any other book, the Quran. When their messenger comes, it will be settled between them in justice, and they will not be wronged. Then verse 48, remember, it has to do what God is promising. Regardless of the day of judgment, this has to happen before the day of judgment. And they say, the people are now telling Muhammad, they say, when is this promise? If you should be truthful, when is this promise? So we can say this prophecy is in the Quran, but then still we are reading it today. So the messengers who are supposed to come, their only duty is to narrate the verses of God to you, not the verses of Sahih Bukhari or any other Imam Mahdi's book. No. The verses of God, ladies and gentlemen, listen carefully. He will recite the verses, narrate the verses of God to you. Whoever will reform and become pious, they will have no fear or grief. So that is the book of God we are looking forward to, the verses of God. So then they ask, if you should be truthful, when is this promise? So when you take these verses I'm quoting, the last verse I'm going to quote is chapter 39, verse 71, when you can see the truth. Now this verse is telling you on the day of judgment, and those who disbelieved will be driven to hell in groups, Zumara, until when they reach it, its gates will be what? Opened, and its keepers will now say to them, did messengers, listen carefully, not prophets, did messengers not come to you, among you, reciting the verses of your Lord to you, and warning you of this day of your meeting? They will say, indeed. Now tell me, if messengers didn't come, why are they saying indeed? Indeed, but the word of punishment has been imposed on the disbelievers. So you see the evidence. Messengers have been prophesied that they will come, and still on the day of judgment, God will question people. Did they not come? Now, ladies and gentlemen, if it is only about Prophet Muhammad, ladies and gentlemen, did you see Prophet Muhammad reciting the verses of God to you? The answer is no. Do you get me? No. So it is not about Prophet Muhammad. We are talking about messengers who will narrate the verses of God. But these people don't know the difference. They think when we say messenger, we are talking about prophet.
Who's the messenger today?
Did God say messengers or did he say messenger?
Who's the messenger today?
Did he say messengers or messenger?
Sometimes he sends messengers.
No, ask me a question.
Who are the messengers today? Who are the messengers?
Ask me a question based on the verses I quoted.
Who are the messengers?
Okay, the ones who are narrating the verses of God to the people. They are the messengers.
Who are that? Who are those?
The ones who are narrating the verses of God.
So the Sunnis and the Shias and you and everybody?
They are narrating Sahih Bukhari verses.
No, they're narrating Quran.
No, they don't.
Yes, they are narrating Quran.
Wallahi, they don't.
Wallahi, they do.
Reciting doesn't mean you are
Brother, they've memorized the Quran more than you.
No.
Okay. Even little kids memorized it, you know. And they recite the Quran. Yalla. Bismillah.
Am I here to challenge any Sunni scholar?
You're like, I can get you a kid that recites the Quran for you right now. Now he's a messenger now.
Have you memorized the Quran?
Now he's a messenger.
Have
I'm
you
gonna give you
memorized
little
the
kids who are
Quran?
messengers, brother.
I say, have you memorized the
I'm
Quran?
gonna send you the messengers, kids, and you have to obey them.
Have you memorized the Quran?
God bless you, brother. Have I memorized it? I don't need to memorize it because it's not the complete 100% authentic Quran.
Wait,
So
tell me,
you
tell
have
me.
not yet proved that the Quran is authentic 100%. You know, you understand? You know,
Is
like
that
so
the topic?
it's a
What
problem for you,
was
not
that the
for me.
topic?
I don't
Was that
believe that God. I don't believe that God. The God's religion is a book. I believe
was that the
that
topic?
God's religion is a man who's appointed by God. That's the religion.
Was that the topic? That I should prove the Quran? Is that the
No,
topic?
no, but you're the one who is claiming he's you. Look, when
Where's
you
the
talk, let me answer you. When you talk as if the Quran is complete, then of course I have to bring you back to this thing because you're the one who is limiting your own understanding in your own conversation based on these limits, and the limit is what? That the Quran is complete.
Yeah, it
But
is.
that's false. That's a false, and that's a false category. Why? It's false because we're talking about something that Aslan, you have to prove. Yeah, you're taking this for granted. You're taking this as if everybody believes it in this world. The majority of the people on the planet Earth don't believe in the Quran. So now you have to prove that this book is complete 100% before you use those standards to judge me. You understand? To judge our argument with. Yes, you are shocked. It's very intense, right? But like you have to prove that the Quran is complete first before you use arguments from the Quran against us. You understand? That's how it works. Because if I come and I say, look, according to you, the Quran is complete. Okay, that's what you say. What about if a hadith does not contradict the Quran? You say, oh, it's not guidance because Allah is the only guidance in the Quran. I say, well, that's a problem now. That's a big, major, gigantic problem that we cannot bypass. If we bypass it, everything I say is going to be for you foreign. It's going to be kufr. It's going to be shirk, right? Everything I speak will be shirk. Because why? Because the only thing you believe in, you hold as a standard, is this book. That's it. You don't hold anything else as a standard except this. Now, our problem is this now. Our problem turned from the will to this. You say this is complete 100%. You say this is authentic 100%. You're going to judge everything. I have the narration of the will. I can give it to you. It's in Al-Ghaiba al-Shaykh al-Tusi, page 150. There. You go read it in there. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, on the night of his death, say to Imam Ali, Ya Ali, bring me a pen and paper. He goes and brings the pen and parchment. He comes back. The Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi narrates to Imam Ali, Ya Ali, it's going to be after me, there will be 12 Imams, and after them, there will be 12 Mahdis. So you, Ali, are the first of the 12 Imams, and he narrates for him who is the successor as a normal, mindful king would do. You know, as a mindful king, ruler, you know, over the people, over the lives of people would do, he would not leave them without appointment. But it seems that the Qur'ani wants us to do this, wants us to ignore the entire history of this book, the history of how it was gathered, of where it came from, of the context of when it came down, of what verses mean in the limited, where did they come down, about what, upon who. Like, for example, Abasa wa Tawalla, this Quranic verse. Please tell me, Abasa wa Tawalla, is it about the Rasulullah or is it about someone else?
Are you done?
Well, I mean, with that face of yours, I'm kind of, no, I'm not done. I'm asking a question, yes?
Are you done talking so then I can take over? So
Abasa wa Tawalla, is that from about Rasulullah or is that about somebody else?
Is that the topic we are here to talk about?
But well, I just told you, but it seems like you don't understand me. So look,
No, I'm saying, is
look,
that the
Habibi,
topic
look,
we are here to
look,
discuss?
Habibi, look, Habibi, look. I already gave you the will of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The will does not actually go against the Quran in any way, shape, or form. Not in near, not in far. The will does not go against the Quran. In fact, it continues. Now look at this, brothers and sisters, because the brother was saying that prove, where does it say that Rasulullah is the Hidayah, is the Huda? Prove it. Let's take the Quran, for example. وَمَا مَنَعَ النَّاسَ أَن يُؤْمِنُوا إِذْ جَاءَهُمُ الْهُدَى. Who came to them? Guidance. إِلَّا أَنْ قَالُوا, except that they said, أَبَعَثَ اللَّهُ بَشَرًا رَسُولًا. Did Allah send a human being as a messenger? So guidance came down to them. They denied it because they denied. So how can you separate between the Rasul and the guidance? You cannot. You don't separate because
Can I
Allah
answer that?
chose.
Can I answer
Allah
that?
chose. Okay, Allah chose to send a Rasul, a human being that's a Rasul, with the guidance. If you separate between them, guidance is not gonna reach you. You understand? It's like if I say I'm gonna send you a text message with guidance in it, with directions. If you don't pick up the phone and accept it and take it and literally take it and hold it and protect it and not break it, you are going to be lost. If you don't hold on to this phone, you are going to be lost. You're going to be lost.
Can I speak?
Yes, go ahead.
Quran chapter 61 verse 9. Huwa allazi arsala rasulahu bil huda. He used the word bil. Now this bil is showing that he has, not him. He's
No,
the huda.
no, I disagree. I disagree.
No. Can I finish speaking?
Yeah, I disagree.
Bil.
I disagree.
It's please,
inside.
can I finish talking?
Inside of it.
Can I finish talking?
Okay, but like I disagree.
How
are we gonna solve this problem?
Please,
brother, how are we gonna solve this problem?
I allowed you to talk because I want people to understand our conversation.
Brother, you don't understand. Right now, look, I will give you 10 minutes. Wallah, I will give you 10 minutes like I did before. I gave you 10 minutes.
I don't need 10 minutes. Can I finish my point first? Then
you don't want to discuss.
No.
Just give me a monologue.
That's what I just want to talk about this.
Give me a back and forth. I will give you back and forth.
Can I finish my point?
Is this guy okay?
No, is it difficult to finish my point?
No. Are you okay, brother? Do you
not understand logical
I'm mentally kaput. I don't think you understand the logic. Yeah, it seems.
What kind of question is that?
At least you admit it. So look, the idea, brother. Watch. When I have a problem with you,
can I finish the verse?
No, you're not.
Am I going to finish my verse?
Right now, I need to come to an agreement. I stopped the time for you. I'm not going forward on time.
But I don't care about time. Look.
Your time, you want it? Yeah, you want time? I give you your time.
We are already 2.5 hours into the program. Do you think I have all day for you here?
You don't need to be here. Nobody has forced you or twisted your arms to be here. Gabi, please.
No. I just want to finish my verse. Is that a problem?
Yes, it is a problem.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen.
That's what I'm saying. There is a problem.
I think we cannot have a conversation because I'm not on your program.
That's okay.
To just be submissive anytime. Just
God bless you, brother. The whole conversation, 2 hours. I gave you time and I said
no. We cannot have a discussion like this.
We cannot have a discussion.
You are going to keep interrupting me.
God bless you, brother. You're not want to listen right now. You want to run. The door is open. You can run as fast as you want. Look, it's literally right there. The door. You can run as fast as you want. Yeah. But if you want to continue a conversation, then we have to come to a conclusion. We have to agree on the point of discussion. We cannot you cannot change the topics left and right. And when I have a major problem with the issue that you're raising, you are like you're like this. Okay, up to you. Run. The door is yours. So he left. Of course he did. I said, of course you think I did.